Well, welcome to Unclicked. We're here in Fuzzy's house. Thank you for being down for this.
Of course.
I always feel like we generally don't start at the beginning, but for you, we should start at the beginning.
Oh my.
1970,
Ooh.
young Fuzzy emerges.
With a big white afro and...
Yeah, that's the name Fuzzy comes from static electricity hair.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I would go to, and people in the past have heard this story 100 times, but I would go to kindergarten the very first day and all the kids called me, and I just took it so personal. And I came home to my mom, they don't like me. And, but it's been the best thing ever. Yeah. And I love the name Fuzz. It's because I am fuzzy. I'm not all clear.
How long did it take you to start like accepting it as like, all right, this is me and I'm cool with it?
That's a great question. Like, I think I was good with the name once I started the older riders in BMX. You know, I was probably 1978, 79. They would just call me it like so naturally, and it just became my name. And I think my mom is still mad to this day that my real name's Tim, or my Bible name Timothy. But I just love it. I mean, it's I almost feel like it should have been on my birth certificate.
So you, and what area did you grow up in?
So I grew up in, I was born in 1970, good date to remember. And then slowly got into BMX around 77. 70, that's insane, it's been that long. And I got my first BMX bike from a lawnmower shop. I got it for Christmas, right by my grandpa's house. And I saw this bike and it was, this sounds horrible. It was a Schwinn SX 2000. But to have the cool bike was a Schwinn Sting. And I'm sure Behringer will talk about the Schwinn Sting too.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah. And it was just, it was just a gorgeous frame, and just, it gives me chills talking about it. Like, bikes were made so well then, but the technology of bikes were not there, you know, old headsets that you had to adjust. Like, these young kids got it good.
This is where like my knowledge runs out, but is it like literally banana seat status?
No.
Okay,
that's great. So this is like on the, like, when motocross, like, God, Bob Hanna, all these famous motocrossers, they, how do I explain this? I grew up in a town, small town, and they brought a huge motocross race to my whole backyard. I should say a mile away, and my backyard was a huge national for supercross guys. And I go, Dad, I really want to, like, I want to get into motocross so bad, you know? And I knew about BMX, obviously, but a motorcycle was so much money. And anyway, we go to this race, and it's you know, we paid to get into this, it was an outdoor motocross race. And Bob Hanna was there, who, you know, you had to emulate everything he did on a BMX bike or whatever. And then we saw him win every race. And then as we're leaving, we see this guy jump. I mean, bikes, supercross or motocross bikes were just horrible then, you know. And we watched this guy wreck and tore off his kneecap right in front of my dad. And he goes, "You're not getting a dirt bike. There's no way," you know. It's like, I was so mad, but it's probably the best thing. That wreck turned out to be a good thing for me.
Yeah.
And so I think, you know, that 78, 79, Christmas morning, I woke up to this bike that I just could not. And we all know about, you just fall in love with bikes. Yeah. I couldn't believe it was my bike, you know, and that's what started it, really. And but at my age, I couldn't. There was no one to ride with. BMX was still like kind of a brand new sport, and but the high school kids, and I was still in elementary school. I would go out with them, and I think it was just awesome to you know, go higher than them or do whatever, and like. And
you were the little test monkey.
I was the test monkey. You go first, and we had this dirt jump, and we'd stack up tires so you could go higher, you know. And these guys were like 16, and when you're only 9 years old, like, that's a big gap in age, you know. Huge. And but they took me in, you know, and we would they'd always take me to the BMX races, and they'd throw me in the back of this, like, the small Japanese truck, you know, with a shell on it in the middle of January to go down to Salt Lake and race indoor on concrete with these octagon ramps that are made out of wood. And you had to remember which way the track goes.
Like, I've seen those early track things where it's like, it's indoor, and it looks like you see those people, they hit they go over the bars because it's like, it just built horrible.
It was nuts. And I couldn't believe my dad would let me go with these guys, you know, because like, I just remember sitting in the back of this truck with, you know, all the bikes, you know, hanging out the tailgate. I go, that's cool how they load the bikes on the tailgate. You know, that was like so long ago. And then they get me there, and like Joe Wall was his name. He would have to register me. My dad would just give him money and then register me, and and my dad, he supported me, but he was just he didn't have the time, you know?
Yeah.
So we get to this indoor, it was called the Coliseum, and it's where the X Games were at this year here in Salt Lake.
Okay, yeah.
And so that was a trip to go back, and
crazy.
that tripped me out mentally. I was like, I can't believe I go back.
Because they were those old farm-style buildings and stuff that were surrounding it and all that. Yeah.
Did you see
one of the
them?
races were in there?
Yeah, and it was a huge Coliseum. And in fact, I think my wife, she would go to a few of them later on. But my very first race in January, it was just so cool to ride your bike in the middle of winter. Like, that was a big deal, but then I was like, oh my God, I don't know which way the track goes. I get in the gate, but I started winning those races. It was so cool. And I was just so worried about remembering the track, and it was just so cool to.
Were you like naturally good at it, or did you put hours and hours on it when you were younger?
I didn't know, really. Yeah. That's a great question too. I knew that if you won, like, that's a good thing, right? Or if you got a trophy, and it's easy to get trophies in BMX, but I loved every one of them, and it was so cool to get back, and show my dad, like, this is what I did. And I think my dad started going, oh, wow, he must be good, but those are some of the craziest memories when I was that young. And my dad let me go with these guys, and, it was just, and the weather in Utah too, in the middle of January, there were snowstorms, and you had to work hard to get to a BMX race in Utah.
Yeah.
And I remember the wooden gates, like, you would have a gate starter that would just say, set them up, riders, and I forgot. Anyway,
there was no light.
There was no light. Oh my gosh. So you almost, like, the guy that started the gate, you wanted that same guy every time, because the timing was like, he had to be dead on, watch the light, not watch the lights, but watch the gate, so, and it's so cool to see BMX, like the Olympics and the gates, how much technology is in those gates now, it's so crazy. But that's
and so I assume that kind of carried on for a few years of racing, and then riding. Well,
Yep.
I mean, so the town that you grew up in was a kind of bigger town, smaller town.
Small town. Yeah. It had 15,000 people, and I had I've always got paid to ride a bike, like, actually I had a paper route, and I told my dad, look, if I get this bike, I'll get a paper route, Dad, I'll help pay for it. And so I'd have a paper route of like 80 papers,
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe this is my bike. So I was embarrassed to put, like, bags on my BMX bike, and go do this paper route, but it was the best thing ever. It was so cool. And in a small town, everyone knows who you are, what you do, especially when you have a big white afro and you look the way I did. There's that kid again, the white kid on the, but then, I'd just be doing stand-up wheelies down the street. Anything I could do, I could not. I remember learning bunny hops, like, just, it's kind of like an ollie on a skateboard. Like, once you get it, I'm like, oh, this is so good. That'll save me so much time, to get over this curve. It was just so magical.
Do you still keep in contact with any of those dudes that were...
I talked to Joe Wall about maybe 5 years ago.
Okay.
And he was so proud of what I did. He goes, I can't believe it. And he linked me up with Facebook, and I just idolize those guys still.
Yeah.
Some of, like, the big pros, and then everything was Southern California, and the only way to get information was through BMX Action or all these early day magazines back then. And I idolized the editors, the photographers, the riders, obviously, and I just remember the first national in Utah in the summer, meeting some of these guys that were in a magazine, like, that's him.
Yeah.
It just gave me chills.
Especially when you read the magazine 15 times
you
or
do.
Something like that.
And that's all you did. And you couldn't wait for the American BMXer, where are my points for the year, to race and all that. And I didn't care about the race. I did, because it kept me riding. And I shouldn't say that. I love racing. And, but it kept me, I had to go faster, do this and that to impress the older riders, and it was just so cool. Such a magical time.
So when was like kind of the jumping stuff come in? Did you do some stuff at your house or build some stuff, or the locals had some stuff?
Well, my dad, where we grew up, we had a pretty big backyard. And so I think some of my first memories of BMX dirt wasn't actually dirt. It was like my dad just bought this new house and we had this backyard that was level, just dirt. And I was like, well, I'm going to build a ramp, and we made the most shady ramps, like stuff that Steve Crandall would be happy, out of pallets and stuff like that. And I just remember that was it. And I got good at that. And then a little bit farther in my backyard was all these ditches, like with water running through them. And I remember I was trying to show off for my dad's friends. My dad had a swimming pool in his house, and right behind the swimming pool, like I had this jump. I just hit it all day long. And then I remember building this dirt jump, and I had to been 9 years old, and I wanted to impress all my dad's friends. And so I built this pretty big, like dirt jump. This is a dirt, and it was, I don't know, it was probably like 20 feet, but it was really mellow and just Evel Knievel style stuff, I remember just getting launched, I sunk into the lip, and then I wheeled up and I landed, and just flew over on my back. And I don't, maybe I got knocked out, I don't remember, but I remember my dad yelling at my mom, "Go get him now, you got to get him to the hospital." It must have been really bad. And I remember the wreck. It was like, I think it definitely got my back and all that, but I was like, man, this is crazy. This is getting nuts, Now we laugh at it, but that was my first memory of like building a dirt jump. And it was just so incredible that I did it over this ditch, of all.
Yeah.
I think in my mind it was like
Evel Knievel chasm and stuff. Yeah.
Like a Snake River thing, a little imitation of Evil. And we all did it back then, Evel Knievel was the shit. And that's it.
Yeah.
Can I swear?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my first memories. Those trails behind my house in this small town. And those trails were right next to the motocross track,
Okay.
So then I go over there and watch, all the kids my age get, they had their 80s, dirt bikes. I'd be so jealous, But it was cool because as we grew up, like the neighborhood kids would start, come over and build with me. And I think I realized like that, like I had something there, because the other guys wouldn't do that. And it was just so much fun to...
It probably brought a big sense of community too, in that sense, where you have all these people coming over, and it's like, I got all these friends, and
gosh,
like through bike riding and stuff like that.
It was way cool. I remember my uncle Ron and my uncle Kim would come over to the house and watch, and he's like, yeah, that kid's pretty good, And so it was so cool to impress your uncles and all that, but never in my right mind would I think that I'm going to make money or make a living.
Yeah, and there was nothing outside of racing, right? Like the freestyle.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Well, the AFA, American Freestyle Association, I still have my card in the house somewhere. I should find that for you. But I remember, that was like the early days of BMX freestyle was, 79 to, all the way, 85, 86, 87, whatever. But I remember going to those contests at the same place we race, and then the AFA would rent out this Coliseum, and they put in like these 8-foot quarters that it was just so cool, and Dennis McCoy, like meeting him for the first time, and Mike Dominguez, all the guys that were in
So
rad.
you're still like under 16 at that
Oh
point?
my gosh, yeah. I was probably 13,
God,
14.
Dennis McCoy is old as shit.
It's
so
he's
crazy how old he is. Like,
God bless him. He's my timestamp for I mean, and as you do get older, and I'm 55 now, and it's like, man, you start realizing, like, I've lost tons of friends, either through bad, getting sick, cancer, whatever, car wrecks, and it's crazy, and I don't, it's so weird to get in that frame of mind, like, I don't want to feel old, but we're all doing it, right? And
happens to everybody, if they're lucky.
And so God bless Dennis McCoy. I mean, he's still such a, he's amazing.
Yeah, and he still kills it. So
I know.
It is wild.
Yeah, and it's so cool. Like I have, because I was teammates with Dennis for a while, which I still to this day can't believe, and but I'm trying to go back to the time frame of like the early '80s in Utah, watching Southern California, and the only way to get the info or the data of it was through this magazine that you couldn't wait. You had to wait 30 days to see the next. You just couldn't get enough of it. You're just constantly flipping through it. And so, I think the riders today, man, it's social media I think it's a great thing for, it's definitely can be really bad. And I have, that's something I could talk about later, but I just think it's amazing that I could watch a rider in Australia now or do it's so well connected now.
Yeah. Is the jumping stuff, like obviously you are 16-ish, and racing is doing its thing, you were pretty good sponsored through racing, or
Well, so I grew up. It was a bicycle shop that I eventually worked for, being a mechanic at, and its name was Bingham Schwinn, and I would work there or go down there, and they would give me free grips, or like, this kid's getting good. That was a big deal, and so I just started getting, I guess it was more word of mouth, and I was a show off, I'll admit, I just did, and I didn't care. I jumped, do whatever just to impress people. It was so much fun.
Yeah. So like one of those where you if people were looking, it motivated you to do more.
Yeah. It's crazy. Like in that small town, like 4th of July, I go build dirt jumps. Now I'm like 13, 14.
Yeah.
I just build a dirt jump at the, right before the, 4th of July fireworks to go off, and I'd have like a huge crowd and just pedal my ass. I just go in far, and just to do an X-up. Learn an X-up was like, you can put your bars backwards, like in the air. Like that was a big deal, and that started the creation process for me. Like, what could you do on a bike, and but the only way to have that bond with other riders and just was through BMX racing, and freestyle I was hoping to get bigger and bigger, but I think eventually like the AFA contests were so hard to get to, and and my dad, I don't think he wanted to pay for it. It was so much money to travel, then, but it was incredible to see, the early 80s, 83, 84, because I was born in 70, 83, 84, that's when it really hit. I was like, okay, I'm gonna keep this up, and I do whatever I could to get to a BMX race, ride in the back of a truck. Or
so you went down to like Texas. How far did you go for races?
Oh my gosh, so this story is great, because this is like this race in Fort Worth, Texas.
Okay.
And I remember getting there, and once again, I have to say, like, the only way to get noticed was being fast, and I wasn't fast. I mean, I was, but I wasn't fast enough for racing.
Yeah.
So what happened was, it was called Wizard Publications, who owned BMX Action. Who, to this day, I can't believe, Wendy Osborne, one of my favorite photographers in BMX, and we get there, and they're there live in front of us, and all these BMX pros from, you name it. I mean, Stu Thompson to Tommy Brackens, all these other riders that I was getting in the gate
Pistol
with.
Pete?
Who?
Pistol Pete?
Yes,
there
of course.
I know
and so
one.
there you go. I mean, it was incredible. Like, these are like gods, for me, and it was so cool. But they had this great kick-ass like tabletop jump, and it was probably like 20 foot, but it was on the track. And I remember before I left for this trip to Texas, learning no-footed can-cans at our local BMX. I was like, I can't believe I could, do a no-footed can and get it back. And the editor then was Craig Gork.
Gork,
yeah. And so a good friend of mine, Eddie Buckley, went up to Gork at that race, and he goes, "You should watch my friend. He can do this trick, And Eddie comes running over. He's like, "Gork's here," like this famous editor of a magazine.
Yeah.
I go, "He's not. He's really here." And he's, "That's him." And he goes, "I heard you have a trick or something." I did it for him in the middle of BMX practice, and it was such a fun race. And anyway, the race was over, and he came up to me with Wendy Osborne, who was like, Eddie, I think Eddie Fiola dated her for a while too. Another story. But Gork invited me. He goes, "Hey, most of the riders usually go home, on Sunday night or whatever after the race is over, or could you stay another day, And we drove all the way down there. It was like forever, 20-hour drive or whatever.
So you said Eddie was with you. Who else was with you?
So Eddie had a neighbor. His name was Leon, and I have to give him props. I hope he's still alive. And he was this military dude, and his son raced, and he took three of us, me, Heidi, what was her name? Fast girl racer, me, and Eddie.
Okay.
But Eddie was like one of my first, Eddie would be a good agent, a sports agent. But if he wouldn't ask Gork, to watch me then, and I didn't even know.
Yeah.
Because you got to do it. You got to do it. And so I did it, and he asked me to stay that extra Monday. Because we're doing a big photo shoot with like all these BMXers, Pistol Pete, gosh, I mean, the names go on, Stu.
So like when a no-foot can, just for reference, is it like other people, it wasn't like you
And no one was
invented
doing it.
But
Yeah.
did you invent it?
They
or
were
is
doing it in freestyle,
Okay,
but not
freestyle.
on.
Okay.
And I was like, well, man, why can't I try that on dirt or whatever?
Okay, all right.
Because if you think about it, I mean, when you're on the quarter, it's
Yeah.
it's almost perfect, you know. So it's kind of hard to. I was like, what if you get your feet way over and then get them back on the pedals,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And this had been 80.
So you hadn't seen anybody do it over a straight jump, just quarter?
No, just quarters.
Oh, that is
you know?
crazy.
It was
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
And I emulated those and watched those guys, and I couldn't get enough of like, you know, Freestyle Magazine back then and all these new tricks and so many damn good riders, you know. And every one of them was coming out of Southern California, and that's where you needed to be. So I was already stacked up against the odds, I guess. But if Eddie wouldn't have done that and just, it was being at the right place at the right time for me, and I'm still in
Well, it
awe.
does seem like a little bit of a, you know, you have a brand new trick, you
Yeah.
end up bumping into the photographers, they're actually having a shoot the next day, you have
Yeah.
the ability. So was
nuts.
Leon, was the driver, right?
Yeah,
Was he cool with staying, or did you have to convince
That's
him?
what we had to do next.
Yeah.
Is Eddie, you know, he goes up to Leon like, hey, he's got a good opportunity here, you know, and is like, can you stay another day? And he's such a cool dude. Like, if he wouldn't have stayed, and most dads nowadays, I don't know if they'd stay another day because it costs so much money and the time involved and everything. But
I gotta work, you know, whatever, yeah.
and he drove me the next, you know, we'll get a hotel for this night and we'll stay the extra day. But he goes, I want to watch you though. Like, you know.
Yeah, you better try.
It was so cool because like now it's Monday morning after a big BMX event on a weekend.
Yeah.
And we get out the track and it's like, no one's there. It's like a ghost town now. And it was like, the whole track was ours, you know, it was like the best dirt, like this red clay dirt that was just, it smelled good when it was wet. It's just like the best dirt ever. Like, and I remember like, I always like jump berm to berm, you know?
Yeah.
That was one of my
like across.
favorite things to do. There's so many, oh my gosh, you know? But I was always eyeing up berm to berm jumps even then, you know, but I remember shooting the photos and all the BMX pros, you know, like, they were shooting action, right, on this jump, and it was so cool to impress all those AA pros.
Was there any sort of like, you know, who's this kid? What, you know, like, did you have to sit around for a while to wait for your time, or was it like kind of?
It was so cool. I mean, photo shoots in BMX to this day, like it's still one of my favorite things to do, you know. And so one rider to go, like all these fast AA pros, you know, and like and there was, you know, Billy Griggs was amazing. He, you know, he could do X up fast as hell. And I watched him on the first time, you know, BMX on TV, on Nickelodeon of all channels, you know. And like here I am riding with these guys now, and they would just sit back and watch me. What else you got? And then so I come up and do like a can one-hander, you know, stuff like all these, I mean, tricks that they were so hard back then. Now we'd laugh at almost, you know, and but that's what they just sat back, watched, and we had a great time, and I just couldn't believe it. So I remember driving back from that trip, and you know, Leon, the guy that drove, and it, like, man, that was so cool. I can't believe we met all these guys, and you know, and it was just, I was so happy, and I didn't expect anything out of it, and it just turned out. And then back then, you had to wait 30 days for this magazine to come out, whatever. But I remember Gort calling me from about, I don't know, 2 months later at the small town, you know, I grew up in, and he goes, yeah, I got a parting shot in the last one, which I couldn't believe. I'm gonna get a full color shot in the magazine, like wow, like, and that was amazing. And so, and then the next month he calls me. He goes, yeah, you got the cover of BMX Action for 1987 or something like that, of an no-footed can.
So that's it, right? That's the one.
That's the one with the holes in the shoe, and you know, it's just so funny to see that, you know, and it was just such a great time for me in BMX, you know. But
and then you credit that as being like nothing was the same afterward, correct?
Yeah, that's like being at the right place at the right time. And
so BMX Action, was this the biggest magazine? Did you have was Go Around yet or no?
No, not yet.
Okay, so BMX Action was the biggest one.
Well, BMX Plus too.
BMX Plus,
I'd say distribution wise, Plus beat them, but Action was it was just so detailed and so much more pure. I thought the marketing was different, you know, for the magazine. And one of the reasons for like that magazine did so good is because of Wendy Oz, the photography, and her dad who started the magazine, you know, and it just became huge in Southern California. So for me to get that cover was just absolutely nuts. It still gives me chills to like, that was my breakthrough, you know, shot, whatever you want to call it. which, that's how you got to stick out even today, or whatever.
Yeah. Put yourself out there for sure. And then you have, knee racing, gravity bikes,
and
glad that didn't stick around.
No, me too. Actually, but that was a weird, talk about weird 80s niches in BMX and weird shit that went down.
Yeah.
That was, but it's cool. I mean.
So you're wearing, are those Vans you're wearing?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so Vans, you got dyno gear, all that stuff, but they're not sponsored by any of them.
Nope.
At that point.
I bought all that with my own money. Not that it was anything special, I still love the fact that there's holes in my shoe from learning ollies on a skateboard, because I skated too, and I love skateboarding also, but I was way better on a bike, So my shoe where it's all rubbed through there, it's from doing ollies, on my skateboard.
That's pretty crazy for them to put like an unknown kid essentially. Like it
Amen.
goes to show that how impactful you were, I guess, and how the trick was actually cutting edge and all that.
Yeah,
stuff. So.
I would love to know what they talked about when they got back to the magazine. Like, oh, this kid from Utah, is he Mormon or does he have horns growing out of his head? Is he, that kind of thing. So I didn't even know that, but like Utah, getting outside of Utah and hearing people talk about Utah, it was so bizarre, But
so then you go from this cover, and is this early '87 or whatever?
Yeah.
And then you go BMX Action Team, so they start like.
Yep.
They're like, all right, you're the guy or something?
Pretty much. I mean, it was so, and Chris Muller was obviously the guy like I looked up to too.
Yeah.
Chris Muller was on the BMX Action test team, and this is where they took, all these big, like GT, Redline, Mongoose, whatever, they'd send a bike for the magazine to test, and Chris was the test rep for that. And I was like, man, that's the coolest job on earth. Like a BMX Action test member, like, and I did anything that, Chris was doing, I tried to emulate that.
Yeah.
So, which I thought was just amazing. So what happened was, after the cover and everything, like, Gort called me again. He's like, hey, we want to bring you down to Southern California and do this test on a bike, and I was like, this is nuts. I can't believe it, and so my mom helped me out, organizing travel, because I didn't know how to book a flight. That was my first flight, was to LA and go to Torrance,
So did they pay for it and everything?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And so I think they reimbursed my mom or something like that. And what happened was, at the time, I don't know, but I look back at it, and Spike Jonze, who's a famous director now, for those that don't know, Spike's like, just amazing. Like, so I remember flying down to Torrance, from Salt Lake City to Torrance with my bike, which I thought was so cool, you could do it, and packing up a bike to go on a trip was a trip. It was free.
It was still 16, 17.
Yeah, 16, 17. Yeah, 17. And getting down there and like going to Wizard Publications, and you walk into this place and it was business. Like I saw these guys, and the editor to the owner to,
it was money.
It was money.
BMX and money.
And they looked so focused in these rooms, and I remember the first day to go down and test this bike, with Spike Jonze of all people. He's not famous yet in any way.
Yeah.
He was on the Rockville BMX team and would shoot like Matt Hoffman and all these other guys. I knew who he was totally.
Yeah.
But he was always more into photography than riding the bike, which I thought was amazing. Yeah. So I remember the first day we get there and walking through the warehouse of Wizard Publications and seeing these guys meet, and Spike had to check out a fisheye lens, like out of the office, and this lens, I had no idea it was worth so much money at all. I had no clue. And he's like, well, let's go shoot the swim pool. Like, I was like, all right, like, let's go try it, And I could ride quarters, so a swim pool to ride it, actual swim, I could not wait.
Yeah.
And so I started getting, it was just me and Spike Jonze in this old ran down swim pool and somewhere in Torrance or whatever, and just shooting these photos. And Spike he would get so close. Yeah. I was like, dang. And then I ended up hitting, I think I was doing like a look back, something like that, hit his lens, and it broke the lens.
Oh, shit.
And I just remember Spike's voice the whole way back. I'll never forget it. Man, what am I gonna do? I broke the lens. I can't go back there and, checking this lens. And I was like, shit. Oh, well, how much is it? And it was, I think back then it was worth like $4,000 or something insane.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
And I had no clue, but I remember how stressed he was, but I remember the editor of Freestyle, because Freestyle was just starting.
Okay. All right, Freestyle.
That's how it went. And then go. But anyway, like I just remember them talking about
Mark
this
Lumen,
lens.
right?
Yeah, Mark Lumen. Thanks. And Andy Jenkins, of course. Club Homeboy. Those guys. These guys are like the most creative business people.
Legendary on the other side.
Oh my gosh, yeah. You know, and they were just so nice. And they let me stay. They had an apartment, you know, Andy Jenkins, you know, Mark, and Spike. They had this apartment like a block away from the publication center, like where it was at. And I remember every morning they get up, we had to climb over this fence to get, it was a shortcut over to get in there. And sometimes I'd be down there for like 4 or 5 days to shoot these photos or whatever. And it was so cool to see the business side of it. But I was like, I don't know if I want to do that, you know? And how did they do it? I shouldn't say that. It's how do they do it, you know?
Yeah.
How does a magazine come together? And it was so cool to see behind the scenes how a magazine actually like takes place and gets distribution and what they were up against, like having BMX Plus as a competitor and all that. But BMX Action was just so cool to be in. And that became like a routine thing. I'd say about every other month. I was flying down to Southern California from here, and
crazy.
Yeah, absolutely nuts.
So did anybody come with you, or you're just
no,
solo?
Because it was so bizarre. And
So were you like, I don't know, I guess it's hard to imagine because like a different time period, but like were you a responsible kid even outside of BMX?
Yeah.
Like your parents are like, hey, Timothy.
Yeah,
Timothy,
Tim, let me call you your real name.
Yeah.
And no, I had a paper out, you know, and I was trying to help pay for it and all that. And to me, it was more time spent on a bike, you know, so the paper out helped. And I think my dad saw my drive for that, and just he supported me.
That's
like
awesome.
that.
Yeah.
But it was weird to travel alone with a bike. You know, it was so weird to check in a bike. It still is kind of, right? But back then, you know, it was just so weird.
And I assume you just, here's my bike.
Yeah. But at the first trip, I didn't have to take a bike because the bike was there ready to be tested, you know? Yeah. So, but then eventually I was like, there's no way I'm going to ride a stock bike when I'm that much time in Southern California. I have to get my own bike down there.
So what was it? So who was on the test team at that point?
So at that time,
you.
Brian Hernandez, who was just absolutely amazing, you know. And I don't know what happened to him, but he had so much talent, and then he just disappeared. It was so weird. I'd love to know what happened there. But it was so cool to actually be a part of that team or whatever. It wasn't like it was just so cool. And like, how did Chris Muller's shot go? You know, because he'd be testing this bike, and I'd be going, you know, and it became a thing that I did once a month. You know,
did they pay you too?
No.
Oh, okay. All right,
and so, but much.
But just even being associated with them was worth it altogether.
Totally.
Right?
I don't know how. I mean, obviously, I'm going to tell you how it happened, but I started getting sponsors. You know, from Dyno and Harold Maguther.
Yeah.
You know, Magoo, God bless him. If you're there, Magoo, thanks again. He's heard that a million times.
Yeah.
But he was working at GT Bikes, and this is 87, 88. And I think he got in a fight with like, who was it? Gary Long, the owner of GT Bikes and all that. And Magoo's like, later, I'm leaving you for Mongoose. Like, so he left GT Bikes to go to Mongoose over in Torrance, which is the best thing that could ever happen to me.
Yeah, because you were riding for Robinson, right?
Yeah, and I signed my first contract with Robinson. I think it was like for $200 a month. That was a lot for a kid back then.
Yeah.
And
17 again, right?
Yeah. But I was actually making money, way more than my paper out riding a bike, and I got to travel, you know. Yeah. So anyway, it was. I signed the contract, and it was for only a year. You know, I didn't know. I didn't care. I really didn't care about the money at all. Yeah. And I think that's always the best. Most of the time, it's good. There was nothing.
Well, I think when the money becomes a deciding factor, and the motivation and the reason, that's when you kind of lose the plot. Like of course, being mindful of the money is it the driving factor while you make a decision? Definitely
right.
Not. Yeah.
It wasn't for me. It was more like getting sponsors. Like that was the cool thing when you're like, they sent me shoes, they sent me this, but you know, I remember my first.
And I should say, if people listening haven't heard the Magoo podcast, we do talk about that fight. We talk about pretty much, I mean, like I said, we said before we started recording that is the longest podcast, 5-6 hours long.
Yeah.
It is an amazing,
it's good.
Is an amazing podcast. So it got restricted, so a lot of people didn't see it. Because they talk about Magoo pooping on Dave. On
Volker?
No, on Diz Hicks' back.
Oh.
In the first 30 seconds.
I forgot about that story.
Yeah, so then that's the opening story. So then YouTube was like, you're done. I wish we would have thought about that a little bit more because the whole buried the poop story, basically. At least put it in 45 minutes in.
What a bummer. So they wouldn't let you edit
No, I mean, it's there. No, it's out. It's just not, you have to be like 18 and sign in
got it.
to see it. So sometimes a lot of people are just casual YouTube watchers. They don't sign in and all that stuff. So you're not able to watch it.
Unless you're 18.
Signed in, yeah.
And that's funny. Those are some of the stories that I would eventually get to know these stories or be a part of them sometimes. And there's plenty of those. But
so Magoo leaves GT in a flurry, and then he's like, Fuzzy's coming with me.
I couldn't believe it. Somehow it timed out. They were looking. He had to start a team. Magoo didn't, and he here's Dennis McCoy, who's the grand to me, just oh my god, and it's still an amazing rider, and for Magoo to do that, and I think Travis Chaprez, who was one of their BMX Pro, AA Pro, he's like, and Travis would come here to Utah for national races, and I met him, and he went back and kind of helped Magoo. Like, you should call this guy Fuzz. Like, this kid, he's so good. And like, Magoo had to put it together pretty quick, I think, But I had a contract with GT or Robinson Bikes. Yeah. GT owned Robinson, that thing. And I was like, well, I just signed my name, to this. Like, what am I? And somehow Magoo talked to someone over there, like, somehow he negotiated for me to get over to Mongoose, which I don't think it would happen nowadays if you had a signed contract from, a company. Like, they would take you to court nowadays, especially like, talent with riders now. It's worth money.
So you weren't even on Robinson for the full year.
Yeah.
It was quick. It was quick.
I remember an ad, like, out to launch. It was my first ad, like, with Robinson. I think Magoo helped do that ad, and I thought it was so classy. It was called Out to Launch, like out to lunch. Yeah. And I just thought, it was me doing, I can't even remember, maybe a no-footed can or X up.
So this year is still 87, basically. You're on Mongoose.
Yeah, 87, 88, and things are moving fast for me. Like,
and he gets you a raise, I assume.
Yeah, oh my gosh, it was so cool. And you know how Magoo is. He's just so straight to the point, and one of the funniest guys I've ever met.
Yeah.
And he just always had my back. And I was like, he's telling Rich Long and the guys that own GT to basically F off. I'm doing this, and I think it fired Magoo. I mean, fired him up to like.
Yeah, he's gonna stick it to him.
He was so explosive with it, and he put this team together. It was so original or so different, and that's where it helped me out, helped Dennis out. It helped, even Eric Roop, BMX racer, Travis Chaprez, all of those guys, and he had this dream team kind of, and it was small, manageable. And it wasn't like the firm, that they call GT. It was so, it was just so down to earth. Yeah. It was so cool. It was like, I am so glad I made that decision, or Magoo could get me out of that contract somehow. I think he said, well, basically, I won't see you, or I don't know what Magoo said. I know.
So, and then, so it wasn't a hard decision. You're like, Magoo's my guy.
Yeah. He made me laugh so much, and I just knew he was so creative. Like, he's just so, and Muller too. Both of those guys are just so quick-witted, and they're absolutely
super intelligent.
They
just have all the life experience and wildness.
And anything that Magoo did, it just turned to gold. It's just like he could make it work. So I just felt really comfortable with that. Where I'd go over to GT, and like it just felt, it felt so cold. Where you walk over to Mongoose, still in Torrance. So Mongoose was in Torrance, BMX Action was in Torrance, so it was a perfect trip for me.
Yeah.
And so anyway, Magoo put all that together, and then it was just so fun to be that creative with that guy, that time in this point in my career, for sure. He really started something new. Like, I felt that he was very, one, he was super motivated to piss off GT, but he was also so creative about it. I just felt like I was in good hands.
Very cool. And then, so from that point on, I mean, you continue racing for years.
Oh yeah.
Still, right?
Yeah.
And then,
so during those days, I mean, it was BMX racing was the only way to ride dirt. Really, there weren't trails, there weren't backyard BMX jumps or anything like that. And so you had to, that's all you had to work with. And so. But I also like to race. I like it's so fun to race, and but I like showing off better, and so that's
when did the the King of Dirts and the dirt jump contests start coinciding with that, because that was kind of the first dirt contest. Right?
That's a great question, because some of the earliest memories I got of dirt jump contests or whatever, and where I got one of the coolest things ever was Rich Bartlett, who was a BMX rider from that era. he was a test rider for BMX Plus.
Oh yeah, I remember.
A different,
Rich,
yeah. And Bartlett's amazing. The Butcher.
Yeah,
and he's just
I know
good
stuff. I know stuff.
Big dude, but he could ride dirt.
Yeah.
You just couldn't picture this big dude riding dirt like that. And he had the first backyard. My memories is like he had this jam in Lancaster. Does that sound about? Yeah, Lancaster. And anyway, he invited me to this contest, and I think I got the local bike shop paid for that ticket for me to get down to Bartlett's contest, and that's some of the earliest days I remember of like, this is amazing. He's got jumps in his backyard, and I'm not gonna lie, I was jealous. It was so cool, but I think it was called the jump I did. They did it like a jam format in dirt. There was no judges back then, or I can't remember how they worked it. Magoo might have been a judge of that too. I can't remember, but I remember like there was a huge ditch, like the one I wrecked on with my dad back in '79. But this thing was huge. I think it was like 30 something, over 30 feet, And I just remember pedaling my ass off at this jump, going, "This is gonna be nuts. This is gonna be nuts. I'm gonna either make this or not," And that was like one of the cool moments of that contest was that. And one of my best memories, was clearing that jump, and I barely made it. And I think I was the only one. I think Bartlett might have went for it, but he wrecked. And those were fun contests back then, like these backyard jams. And the only place that was really happening was Southern California. I think Travis Chaprez might have some footage of that, but that was one of the coolest memories. And to ride with this guy named Dave Cullinan. I think he's mountain bike pro now. The movie E.T., the opening part of like E.T., or not the opening, but halfway through when they do the BMX chase, and seeing that on the big screen, and like, oh my gosh. And I remember getting to this jam at Rich Bartlett's house, and Dave Cullinan was there, and I was like, he was in E.T., like, he was a stuntman, for E.T. I was like, this is the coolest shit ever.
And that changed. I mean, that thrust BMX into every household in the nation.
Seriously.
Right? Because that was the most popular movie, on the planet for
a long
30 years or something. Yeah.
And I've never asked Dave that. I'd love to know how much money he made, not to go back, but because they were in they had costumes on. You'd never know it's him. Yeah. But once you found out, to meet him and.
You see, one of those bikes sold for like $1 million or something from the movie. Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Like 3 or 4 years ago.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, it was like a Kuwahara that was like.
Did you see my Kuwahara in there?
I did, yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it was like had the provenance of being in the movie and all this stuff, and it's like, but I guess the reality was that they just like. Most of the bikes just got like, oh yeah, take it, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, nobody cared whatsoever, type thing.
It's so funny now because I think, man, I wish I would have kept every bike. I would have, through my whole career. Yeah. But you didn't think about it. You just, here's $100 for a frame or whatever. I wish I would have kept those. It's actually his bike.
I do have this race from '93.
Where are we? Reno? Where is
this?
Says, oh, look, so much neon.
Yeah.
Ooh. So I just got chills. I think that's Reno. Yes, that's so. How did you get this footage?
I was digging last night. Like I said, 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, whatever.
Man, I commend you. That is so damn cool. Oh, that's so cool. What a cool trip. That is amazing. Yeah, I had to be good at racing too.
Yeah.
But I always wanted to jump. There was no place for dirt jumping yet. Really.
Yeah.
And I'll bring up some more stories that where it started getting some momentum to it.
So when is the first being like the king of dirt? Well, I was trying to figure.
Gosh, I would say
95.
Yeah, around there. Well, they would do this at the the Grand Nationals in Oklahoma every year, and it was just kind of they'd put one jump, just in the middle of a berm or something, use the backside of a berm for a landing, and then put, a big jump in front of that. Yeah. And those were absolutely amazing days, like Todd Lyons, who runs SE now, he'd be there, and, obviously Moeller. And it was scary. It was so scary, those contests.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It was...
especially in that day and age, too, where, like, a lot of people don't know what the other person is bringing.
Yeah, that's so true. But that's what was the magic of it, was to see what do you got this, and Moeller was always good, and but you had these blending of like freestyle BMXers, and racers. It was such an odd mix. So all the freestyle guys would come out to a BMX race. They didn't care about the races. They just wanted to go to the dirt jump after, you know? And it was cool to see these two.
Here's 94 Oklahoma.
Oh, God,
I don't know if this
is. Do you know oh, God, these days were nuts.
I haven't seen, this is one I just spotted, so.
This is great. I forget, does it have a timestamp on it? That was incredible.
Who is it? Do you recognize any? Who's that?
Is that Dave Clymer?
Could be. It kind of looked like him.
Yeah.
That may have been Moeller. That was a bar spin.
Yeah, bar spins were just coming around.
Is that you?
Yeah, that was me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. I think that's Clymer. I think that's Dave Clymer.
It does look like Clymer style. Mm-hmm. It looks like it's hard to see, but it looks like there's dirt, but then there's like wood or something up against it. I think
we had to put wood down on because the landing was so mushy.
Okay.
You know, it was what it was.
Lions.
And we were always like the sideshow. Yeah, Todd Lyons is always super competitive. You know, it was so much fun. Yeah, this is when backflips just came out on dirt. You know, pretty much.
Would Dennis win? Was the backflip the winner?
Yeah. Yep. Dennis won. He might have won this one. But really, Matt Hoffman did the first backflip that I've seen on dirt. Yeah. That's, I'll definitely give him that.
Like the early 90s years, those are like the dead years and all that stuff. So the money was gone out of BMX after the movie Rad and all that. And like, I don't know what happened, but just no one was getting paid anymore. And it went through a stagnant, gross time, and it's just like, you're just happy to make a living, barely enough, to get by or whatever, So was there ever a time period like you're 18, 19, 20 doing this thing and you're like, oh, but you're still getting a check from Mongoose. You're getting some money, right?
Oh yeah, totally. And God bless them for that, and I had, great people there still. But they were wondering, now I'm frustrated because now I got to fly down there and like meet with like the owner of Mongoose or Bob Markovicius, who now runs Specialized bikes. He was so nice to me. He's like, Foz, we got to cut back this year. We're not selling as many bikes, And I was like, I didn't get that. I was like, what? We have great momentum here. Let's keep going, And I just wanted to keep riding and traveling and do more and more. But I didn't know about budgets. And I'm like, damn it, there's a budget?
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah.
Like, this sucks.
You can spend too much money?
Yeah. But at the end of the day, I was just happy still. Yeah.
So what was like your daily, in like 92, what were you kind of doing on a monthly basis? Were you chilling in Utah or were you on the road? What?
I was on the road. Yeah. Like me and Spike Jones, Dennis McCoy, we'd be in a van for a week at a time. Let's go to San Francisco and I just like learned wall rides and all this cool stuff, like on the street side of stuff.
Yeah.
I love mixing like racing and dirt jumping and, every aspect of riding. I liked it.
Just bikes.
And just, it was so cool. And it felt like work then, but I look back at it now and I'm just, thank God I got to travel with these guys and do a lot with like this travel and meeting these people.
So were you guys going to these races or just like different events, or is it literally just shoots?
Now that's great. It was a pivotal moment for me because like now racing was simmering down too, but freestyle was, I would say, bigger, like BMX racing had a bigger foundation of, a family sport, the money wise, but we were still getting noticed, that's for sure, and I remember that, Dennis McCoy would help me out with contracts and because I'd never dealt with that, but I hated worrying about the budgets. But what I was doing was flying still back and forth to Utah, and I love Utah. It's like who I am. I'll never leave. And,
wait, did I miss? Did you move to California?
No,
not
at all.
Right.
I was just flying back and forth to, California. But I remember the big move for me was moving down to Salt Lake from the small town, where I grew up and moving into Salt Lake was like, that was insane, and I ended up, renting a room down there and going to my local BMX track and, keeping my train going or whatever. And we'd build jumps, me and other racer friends would find a field. We had the first trails. It was called the Goat Farm because it was next to, it was so much fun building that and experimenting around with dirt and what you could do with it. And the owner of that property just let us do it. It was and we had water, and we dug our asses off and that helped me out so much,
Being in a van with Spike Jones and and
it was incredible.
And Dennis for
absolutely
a
incredible
week at a time.
Yeah, like Dennis McCoy. Oh my God, he's funny too. You know, and every once in a while you get a glimpse of Magoo coming in on just making sure everything's getting ran right at a photo shoot or whatever it was, and going down to San Diego, like the Mission Trails down there. That was I always look forward to that. Eddie Roman, creators like that. Who Eddie Roman was a great filmer and writer, creative writer that happened to film Matt Hoffman all the time.
Yeah.
And that contest was like, I'll never forget Matt Hoffman. We're sitting on the top of this just huge hill, and another big jump at the bottom, ravines everywhere and everything. And Matt was like, man, I feel like a gladiator or something. It was just so cool to see. That's Matt Hoffman. And Matt's like on his way. I mean, he's already one of the best vert riders of all time. And to see him ride dirt, and swear to God, it was called the DBI jump, and it was the perfect jump. And there was rumors that Matt could flip. He just learned flips like the night before or something, and comes out and he did it right in front of me. Like I was in awe. Like Matt Hoffman just flipped this dirt jump,
Oh, I bet
I was like, and for the first time I was like, man, I don't know if I could ever do that. That's insane.
Is it 91?
Yeah, I say, yeah, there you go. So I would say that's one of the first King of Dirts, for sure.
Yeah.
And that was groundbreaking then. You didn't see this.
Matt right there.
You might have, it has to have Matt.
So that was Chad Harrington, right?
Yeah, Chad Harrington, and who was I don't know what happened to Chad, but he was so creative.
He's on Instagram.
Is he?
Yeah.
But this was a game changer for a lot of riders. I mean, and you had the Dirt Brothers, obviously, who built the trails, and Vic Murphy. One of the best photos of all time in BMX is Vic Murphy to me, and to meet these guys it was just like, to me, that this planet.
Well, it's cool that you got to experience so many different scenes as well, and probably absorbed so much style and so much randomness. Yeah, because you're a little sponge at this point too.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I think everyone was. You know, it's like, which way are we going? And that was not like. This was like, this planted the seed for what you're seeing today even in, Freestyle Park, whatever you want, the street and it was such a blend and a mix of riders, Am I a racer? Am I a freestyler? Am I a dirt jumper? Am I what, there was just so many aspects of.
So were you riding at all at this one? Or
yeah. So this day, no lie, and this is the first time I met Dave Mira too. Dave had been, I think he was 14.
Oh, wow.
He was 14 and I would have been.
Was that him right there?
It might have been Mira. No, you wouldn't have.
No, not that one.
No.
He had the little orange visor after this clip.
I bet it was. And I remember I got a story.
See him?
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's him, yeah.
Insane. So, no lie, Dave he's the next dude coming up, and to ride. It was so cool, but I broke off. I broke my shoulder, or I something insane with my shoulder.
Real.
And
that was Matt?
Yeah, that was it. And but he eventually got it, I'm pretty sure. God, I hope I remember that right.
That's all right.
But just to see someone go upside down on a bike like that, I was in awe. And it was just a bloodbath. We all had blood dripping from our nut, and I always remember Matt Hoffman saying, "Oh, I feel like a gladiator," and it was so cool.
And just because it's not in this video doesn't mean it didn't happen. This is one filmer or something. So
there's some, but back to Dave, is he was 14. So Dave got broke off. We both got hurt, and I remember someone's van. It might have been GT's van. I can't remember what rider it was. I remember hanging out with Dave when he's 14, and we're both hurt, and we're just sitting in this van, like hot as hell, and just like talking about stuff, and it was so cool to meet Dave like that. And we're both hurt. We got to spend like 4 hours in this van together watching the rest of this contest.
We're on the same path.
I was like, man. And I just couldn't believe Dave, like how talented Dave was at 14 years old. I can't even believe I'm saying that, but that was a cool moment. That was a very pivotal moment for me and a lot of riders and spectators that day, for sure. That was a great show.
So I guess those that 90 to 95 or, I guess the whole way, it's just like, it seems like it's, you've got the little dead, first X Games kicks off, then all of a sudden it just starts getting all crazy and you got, sponsors galore, all that stuff.
Yep. And I just remember it was so hard to balance that out because you had, the late 80s, everyone was making all this money and they're on movie screens and driving these fast sports cars, and
jumping over Porsches and shit.
Exactly, and I loved it. It was great, but I think everyone had to restrict. It was like riding. You just ride this wave and then you ride that wave. Or what's his quote? You gotta sell out to eat out. And selling out that was
core is poor, sell out to eat out. Yeah,
and I was like, I didn't care. It wasn't like I was whoring myself out. Can I say that? I don't know. It was just like no one's really making money, so you had to do what you could do, to make it. And you take up all these odd jobs. And one of those was with Chris Muller one day, and my teammate, BMX racer, he tried out for a Gatorade commercial that I knew nothing about. I think Chris Muller tried out for it, and I was just at the right place at the right time. And Chris Muller, it was for a Gatorade commercial, and you take these odd jobs like that, but that turned out insanely lucrative, so much money. And I remember calling Chris Muller, how much did you make this week off the royalties from the commercial? And, is it going to get played on the Super Bowl? And it was a cool commercial, I thought, And I remember doing this big 360 over a berm to berm jump, for that. And they had all these fire flames to make it look really hot, And you can only imagine Chris Muller making fun of it,
Oh, yeah.
And it was funny. But it turned out, to me, I was so impressed with it, But I'll always remember calling Chris Muller, how much did you make this week off, And sometimes the checks would be $5,000, And this is a time when money is, So once again, I was at the right place at the right time. And it was so cool that my teammate invited me. He goes, I don't know if you can get into the commercial, but you can come watch me.
Yeah.
And once again, I think Brian said, hey, this guy could 360 that jump. And the director was like, no way, and ended up doing that, and it turned out great. But I remember, through that whole year, I probably made this is back in the this is how I bought my first house, really, with that money. And I remember getting those checks. And then I remember calling Chris, he's I only got $200 this week, or something like that. And I was like, well, it's $200 you didn't have.
Yeah. So were you getting more than him? Because
no,
you did the 3? Or?
I think we were all checking in. How much did you get?
Yeah,
and they were dead on. And, back then they had people to watch these commercials and see the value of these commercials. And Chris got invited into SAG, Screen Actors Guild, which at that time, I didn't know anything about Screen Actors Guild, anything like that, but it ended up amazing. I guess tons of famous actors would have died to be a member of the Screen Actors Guild. But the fact that we're on TV a certain amount of time, it's legal that you had to go into that.
So required. Right?
That was amazing to learn.
You'd be a scab.
Yeah. And so it was so cool to without that, I wouldn't have been able to buy my first house in 91. At 21 years of age, I bought my first house.
Wow. Okay.
And
it was funny because I was going to ask. I was like, was there ever a low period where you're like, oh man, this isn't really popping like I thought it would.
Oh my God,
I gotta do this or whatever. So, but it doesn't. If you're at 21, that's pretty good buying a first house.
Yeah. I always remember Magoo because he'd come into Salt Lake a few times after. He goes, what's your mortgage payment on that? And the house is only $40,000 or something like that. The payment was $350. I remember Magoo saying, you could collect Coke bottles and pay for that mortgage, So I really didn't sweat it. He made me feel so comfortable. He's like, you know what? I could sell Coke bottles. If I do lose everything, I'll just collect Coke bottles. that was Magoo's advice.
Yeah.
I'll always
especially coming from Southern California and all that stuff. Right. Yeah, it's so funny.
And for all the people that they would come to Utah and stay at that house, it really wasn't. It was like a shack more, but it was my house, and I owned it, and it was the best decision I made was to buy that house.
And that is the first trail house, right?
We didn't have a lot of room, so we just had a box jump,
Oh, okay.
And but we had trails a block away from there,
okay.
Which was great. All the neighborhood kids would help me build, and I could get them to do anything because I was in magazines.
You want to jump the box? You come clean the lawn,
exactly.
The yard.
Mow my lawn, do this, and I remember traveling, and I had roommates too. So I didn't have a mortgage because my roommates were paying for it, and they didn't care, and it helped me out. So
I hope Dennis doesn't mind me putting stuff out there, but that's what Dennis did too. He bought his house when he was 16, 17, and because luckily, or 18, whatever it is, I don't know when it worked out for him, but and then he has had people living in it ever since.
Yeah.
And it's like he had this house for 15, 16 years.
Yeah.
Basically has paid zero into it.
And if you know McCoy, he's a penny pincher.
Oh yeah, he'll take the tea bags from the hotel, take every single one of them.
I love it. Yeah. He's smart, you know, and I mean that was some great advice, you know. Magoo helped me out with that. And I think you know, it was so scary to buy your first house at that young age, but that put me at ease, you know, when Magoo said that.
Yeah.
He was like, he's right. But in all reality, though, I just kept looking out and just, I don't know, you know, my dad would say you create your own luck or whatever. I didn't, but whatever. It just, I lucked out. I felt I was at the right place at the right time.
I feel like when I talk about like the path that I took, you know, like I had very non-expectations for myself, honestly, and so I like didn't make any plans, and I didn't plan on doing anything, but everything sort of just kind of tumbled,
right,
and I got here. And so it's like, yeah, you could say luck, but it's also like you presented yourself in a proper way that people wanted to work with you. You obviously had the talent. You obviously, you know, like there's other aspects to it where you can't just say like, oh yeah, I fucking stubbed my toe into this.
Exactly.
Garrett Reynolds signature Monticule jeans. Straight leg, little bit of stretch, high quality cut and sew. Straight leg's not your thing. You want the big old wide boys. They got the Max Miller ones. Jeremy Malotte's got his signature pants. Dan Kruk's got his signature pants. Head over to monticule.co. Enter the code Unclicked for 10% off whichever pants you want. They got hats. They got shirts. Full lineup of gear. But it's not just a code thing. Kicking off Monticule Clip of the Month. Head over to Instagram, post your best stuff, hit it with the old hashtag Monticule COTM, Clip of the Month. Then you go to the URL, you submit it to Monticule. It's just the URL. It's not like you got to upload a video or anything. Name, email. Should only take you like 30 seconds. And at the end of the month, we're going to watch 3 clips. Choose a winner. That person gets a $100 voucher from Monticule. You're going to get a package from me. I got some Monticule gear. I'll kick in some ourbmx stuff, whatever random bits and bobs we have. And everybody's happy. Shout out to Monticule for sponsoring the podcast, for all they do, supporting all those bike riders, making cool stuff. This is how we keep BMX doing well, support brands that support BMX. That's it. Thank you. Back to the podcast.
Yeah, I mean, but that was the advice I got was from like, you should buy a house. Like they all these pros go, oh, are you kidding me? You know? And so
I see, just for conversely, people also told me that and I never did it. And so it was like,
really?
I mean, we didn't buy our first house until I was like 36.
But I mean, everyone has.
But I'm just saying, like, you listened, and that is in itself is a quality all its own. Yeah,
taking their advice, not just as a writer, as just a friend saying you should do this, or and like Magoo, do it. Are you kidding me? Do it. So I just pulled the trigger on that, and that was awesome. I mean, and like with TJ Lavin, I told him, getting to know TJ later on through these years, like you have to buy a house, and I made him do it. I was like, you're buying this house. And once again, greatest thing ever. You know, I look at my son who's now 26, and like I don't see these guys buying a house. There's no way with the economy the way it is now.
Game,
it's a whole different ball game.
So you had that house when you were 21. So then did you keep that one and then buy the other one?
Exactly. So what happened was we were there about 5 years. Yeah. Some of the best bachelor fun times as a BMX rider and owning your own house and having great roommates, and it was just a good time. And it was so nice because I was traveling the world now, starting to go over to the UK and Australia, which with Dennis McCoy of all people, and to do that, it was great to have roommates back at this house I just bought, knowing that it was being taken care of.
So who are you riding for at this point? You obviously have Mongoose and Vans.
Mongoose. Yeah, Vans always. Two of my, I think I rode for Mongoose close to, I had a good wave I rode with Mongoose. Probably, good hell. It had to have been over 22 years, I think. That's unreal for a bike rider to ride, especially nowadays with the talent that's out there. And 22 years as a pro BMXer, that's pretty nuts.
That's insane.
So I'm very proud of that, and I wouldn't change it for the world. There's the best form of education is travel. That's all there is to it.
Agreed.
And that's the advice I give my kids, and my daughter took me up on that, and I'm proud of her. I think there's no better education than travel.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Being outside the comfort zone of normal life is important.
Exactly. It's good.
But Vans, Mongoose, any other brands at that point? Like early 90s?
So, let me rewind just a quick second. Like, I remember, the town I grew up in and getting these big packages at my front door, and Vision Streetwear, all these companies were sending me product.
Yeah.
And I looked at that as a paycheck. And I remember my dad saying, like, you didn't earn that. Like, you don't deserve that. Meaning, and my dad's from a different generation but I totally looked at it like, I earned that. Like, like, and my dad and I would always fight about that, and I just thought, maybe my dad fired a lot of that or triggered me to be who I am today. He pissed me off a lot of the times.
Yeah.
I love my dad, and God rest his soul, but that put a fire under my ass to like, I'm going to show you what I can do, Dad, and because I was getting to know these great people that would support me.
Yeah.
And I just felt really comfortable once again.
Like, so he was saying basically because you didn't do a hard day of labor, that
exactly.
was, you're having fun, so that doesn't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And at this time, I was working in a rock quarry with all these old dudes.
Oh.
And I was one of my first jobs. It was good construction money. And I just remember, like, it was the worst job. And, like, worst job on earth. Like, it's just a big rock quarry, and it had this conveyor belt come up, and like down below, another conveyor belt would get stuck, and all the old dudes would send the young dude, me, to go down and clean it. Which I look back now and go, that was insane. I could have died.
Dangerous as fuck.
And it was, and you do 12 hours. I remember driving back, and the sun was coming up. This sucks. I can't do this. I cannot. I kept thinking about bikes. I'm like, I don't care. Like, I could have died today, even though the money was good. But I guess there's a price for everything, right?
Yeah, 100%.
But that was a triggering point for me too.
And when was that?
That was
like
86.
Okay, yeah.
First,
so
87.
Right, yeah, so you were still after the paper route, like being and even getting a little bit of a check, you still had to
yes,
work. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. But back to your point, I think you said that earlier on in this interview was like, did I ever worry about it? That was probably, I didn't really have a career to lose because I didn't have one yet.
Yeah.
But it definitely fired me up to keep trying to do what you love, and that was thank God.
Fight for it.
Yeah, and I just always remember driving back from that job with the sun coming up, and I did like 3 months of that, and I would have done. I need to get out of this town, move to Salt Lake.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I did it.
When was that point where you were like, all right, I'm good with being a BMXer, and not only a professional BMXer, but I do have a career at this. Like, I can sustain myself. Was there like a certain deal that came through? I guess maybe the Gatorade thing?
Yeah, no, that would have been a little later, but Magoo, back to Magoo.
Yeah.
Like, without him reaching out to me and Gork at BMX Action and, all the people at BMX Action, like, I just felt really, once again, just solid as a rock with it. I just felt, I'm not going to worry about it. Like, and everything just kept rolling along and building momentum, and that just, thank God, because that job, it gave me a reality check, and nothing against like jobs like that at all, because I respect all of that, but I didn't want to do that. There's no way.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody wants to, like it's like a career day at school, and nobody's like, I'm gonna go to the court.
Yeah, so it was so bad, so bad.
Yeah.
But I did have the bike shop. I was working part-time, putting bikes together at a bike shop, and they were also sponsoring
But that's
me.
also like a good thing in a sense.
It was great.
Like, I still think, like, if you are a professional rider and you're just sitting around all day, it's like, go do something for like 5-6 hours just so you're like...
That's a great question,
Summer vacation is awesome until it's like kind of boring,
That's a great... It's like going back to school, like after a summer vacation is like, wait a minute, my party's not over yet. And it was interesting because Jeremy McGrath, who's a famous motocrosser, he has a book out, and I remember reading his book, and there's a section in there where who are his friends, because they had to go to work, 9 to 5, and here Jeremy is like one of the best motocrossers of all time, and he has no one to hang out with. And I went through that. I totally related to that. Okay, so that's why you still see Southern California and these other areas. I think that's where you have to be to have that support from other riders, and
a small aside to this is that I've gone through this recently when Gary started working, and during COVID. Is because he was my friend. I could call him up on Wednesday at 11 o'clock and be like, hey, let's go ride bikes. And he's like,
yes, let's go ride bikes. And so now I'm not that I'm obviously not a professional bike rider, but I am self-employed and I can kind of do whatever I want.
Yeah.
I can't call my best friend anymore to go ride bikes anytime we want anymore. You know, like, oh, I'm going to go to LA on Friday, come with. And he's like, I have to work. I'm like, oh yeah, fuck.
Like, so true.
So it's crazy. It took it kind of bummed, like when I made that connection, I was like, damn, I kind of lost my friend.
Yeah.
Like in that sense, like this, my always available friend.
Exactly.
You know, like it's hard.
It was so hard.
In a selfish way.
You know, and it's so true.
Yeah.
And that's, and if you are interviewing Behringer, asking, like, I always dreamt of, like, what if I had another friend that could make money to ride, and then we could just ride bikes all day, you know? And Behringer being one of the first ones. And then it turned out that he would go to, like, we never got to ride as much as we'd like to, you know, because he had to travel. And it's like a double-edged sword kind of.
Yeah, actually worked out worse.
So, right.
Yeah. So I guess, I don't know, like those 90s days, like I just always see it as a certain thing. Like it's dead. X Games comes in.
Yeah.
Money shoots in.
Yep.
And then you have all this, you know, you have this time period where like, and that's the time period where I start paying attention and you guys are like celebrities and like you're doing little, I don't know, Carl's Jr. commercials and interviews and all this stuff or whatever.
It was starting to become, not mainstream, I shouldn't say that, but you know, X Games, anytime you're on TV like that, that's going to change a lot.
Yeah.
You know, and I remember seeing the first X Games. I missed it. It was in Rhode Island.
Okay.
And I can't remember. I
watched the first X Games this morning, and I was like, Fuzzy's not in this.
Yeah, I'm in the second one.
Yeah,
you know, and so, but I did, I think, 11 years of X Games and all that. You know, and I always hated X Games. I hated it because I anxieties over like being live on TV. I couldn't handle.
Yeah.
You know,
a little bit of a different game, right?
Yeah, it's changing a lot. You know, Brian Foster's that, all these other writers, and we're kind of like, we're trying to figure out this sport. You know, what is it? A sport? Is it? What is it? You know, and it's live on TV now. But I remember seeing Jimmy Levan at the first X Games, and I couldn't believe I couldn't be there. Mm-hmm. Like, and I'm watching it live on TV at my house in Salt Lake, and why didn't I get invited? Or why wasn't I there? And but I always remember Jimmy Levan, like he had his Kiss makeup on and live. He's like, fuck you guys. Like, it was just so
It was pretty
cool.
raw. Yeah.
And I got so jealous of Jimmy.
So you didn't get invited?
No, I did, but I can't remember. I either got hurt or there was some, I'd love to figure that out, but I was so bummed to not be there, you know, but I was in the next, you know, second, then it was scary as hell. The X Games early days was nuts.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, they started making, the jumps weren't necessarily good back then either.
You know, ask Robbie Morales about, you know, some of these first sets.
I think the San Diego, I think they always say that like the San Diego first year jumps were like really, really bad. They're just like super downhill and like just got like, each one doubled in size.
Yeah.
Like, so it was like, it wasn't like, even though
you're
it was so
stretching.
Yeah, it was like weird. Yeah.
You're not comfy trying to do this shit, you know, and it's so cool to see jumps. And now they're pretty standard now, you know. There's an event here in Salt Lake this week, you know, and I saw the course. I was like, it hasn't changed much, you know, there's jumps for TV and then there's trails, you know.
Yeah, of course.
And
so, it's different.
And it was always hard to balance that out because I got spoiled the first time I got to ride East Coast trails. I'm like, and then I get back to my backyard. I'm like, man, you get so addicted to riding downhill trails, you know, and figuring the spacing and all that out, you know, and it's amazing how far it's come in that side of it, you know.
And then, so I guess when, that's a good transition to when you started the trails in your backyard. So you bought a second house.
Yes.
And that was, you bought it with the idea of the size of the backyard was very
that's all I dreamt about was like having my own backyard trails back watching Rich Bartlett's backyard and Billy Griggs too, Southern California.
Because that was one of my questions is like, were you the first? Because I feel like a lot of people give you the credit,
and I don't deserve it.
Yeah, so
it was Billy Griggs, Rich Bartlett, but I would just take that experience from Southern California and bring it back to Utah, and that was my strategy. Was like, I just not to make money or anything. I did it because I wanted my own trails in my backyard, and I didn't want anyone to tell me that I can't ride here or do whatever. So what happened was, I had a good friend who wrecked a motorcycle during this time I'm living in this house, and he almost died that night. He was in a coma for 5 months and all this. I was like, I realized like, man, life's short. I'm gonna ask my wife, you know, we're coming up on 30 years this month, which is nuts.
Shout out to Terry.
Yes,
She's very nice.
She is, and she is amazing. She knows all the BMX. She
let you put a urinal in your bathroom.
It's the best thing ever. Yeah. Everyone should have a urinal in their house. It's like it was cool. And we built this house that we're still in for BMX, you know. But back to the house in Roy, you know, that was so fun, and I didn't do it to get the attention. I really didn't. Yeah. But it obviously got attention, and you know, Keith Mulligan and all those guys, the editor of Ride, back then, you know, they'd come up and do trips, and I think they liked it too because it was easy to do, not easy to do photo shoots, but everything's right there, and it was.
You don't have to worry about any outside influences or whatever as well, and you can go inside and eat a sandwich and go back outside.
It was great. It was amazing, but like. That's where a chain bought that house, and then we sold that house, made money, and now we've been in this house 26 years.
Okay. So obviously it's in Roadfuls as well.
Yeah.
But I don't know what this is from, but I don't know if you've even seen this.
Oh my gosh. What?
I don't know if that's Leo Domlo or
who is that? Why don't I? Oh my gosh, I'm having a flashback. There's my dog Tonka, who would end up in a video game.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's so cool. Yeah. Oh gosh.
So I felt like this was almost earlier than Roadfuls, but
yeah, that I think Roadfuls 13 or not would come
4.
Or 4.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was on 13.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get there too.
Yeah. But so many good memories of this house.
Is that Matt?
Yeah, that's Matt.
Oh yeah.
Matt was look at the footage of Matt. Me and Elle would just make fun of Matt. Like, he'd come over and knock on my door to ride, and we'd there's the weird guy, right? Like, it was so much fun, you know. I mean, I love Matt, don't get me wrong at all. Yeah. And it was just so funny. I got so much shit for this video.
Oh, okay.
I had no idea these guys, they make Shank this video. I thought they were just gonna come over and get a few shots or whatever. Yeah. They end up making this huge production video out of it. And so I don't care now, but back then it was like I did get shit.
Who was that?
I think that was me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The full face.
Yeah. Well, because I was learning front flips. Like me and Berenger were learning front flips at the time, and I finally got back flips down. Oh man, so many broken bones in that backyard.
Oh, sure.
Holy shit.
So like Terry was obviously down from
oh my gosh, so supportive.
Yeah.
Like I think she's not the one that she doesn't like attention at all, but she's very proud of it in her own way.
Yeah.
And thank God bless her, because what women would put up with BMXers hanging out, you know.
Yeah, all day, every day.
You know, and she got in a fight with a few that wouldn't, wear a helmet sometimes or stuff like that. And but for the most part, she's been absolutely amazing. Like
that's awesome. 30 years is nothing to flinch at.
It's so nuts. And this is around the era right now. I'm getting ready to meet TJ Lavin. One of my favorite riders at the time was Sean Butler.
Yeah.
And going down to like Huntington Beach and all the trails down there. Yeah, there's me going for.
Oh.
Yeah, and you'll get the story from Matt about the first front flip. Matt. And I'm still mad about it to this day. I put so much work into that trick, and then.
Let's hear. How long were those trails? How long was that house trails?
So that was only 3 years. That's it.
Okay.
It seems like a long time, but it was very short actually.
Yeah.
But I want to go, get a bigger yard and do more stuff, and and then Terry and I wanted to move down, this house we're in now, close to her work too, and it worked out great, but. That backyard just had so many great memories. It was nuts.
What's the first time you meet Berenger? What's the first time you meet Elf and Aitken and the other characters that I'm blanking on a little bit?
Yeah. Well, it's crazy because I met Matt Berenger at a BMX race. It was called 4th Street when he was just a little kid, probably 8. He got these little puppy dog eyes, and his dad was just, God rest his dad's soul, like one of the best dedicated BMX dads of all time. And so that's how I met Matt, was at the local track, just like you meet, that's how you met back then, or met other riders.
Yeah.
And anyway, Matt lived in Roy, his dad was a cop in Roy, and it just so happens that I buy a house, 2 blocks away from him.
Okay.
Where I think you'll be there today at his house now, and he would just start coming over. And I remember him from the early days of, you know, being the race track, you know, and so he would come over and he just slowly wore on us. Like he became one of those riders. Like, I was proud of it. He was so creative and thought differently than a lot of riders. And I thought that was cool. So we became friends, and it was a heyday. It was so cool to get to ride with Matt every day, and we pushed each other. You know, obviously, like the front flip. You know, I was working on that trick. I tried it the King of Dirt in Oklahoma. Ate shit, broke my back. It was bad. I landed on I got it around, but I landed on my back wheel and looped out, and I was clipped in. I figured
you try to clip in.
Yeah, that's a great story. Yeah. So, but no one was doing it. So I figured the only way you keep your feet on was to clip in. And at the time, Brian Lopes, you know, one of the best bike racers of all time, he was starting to race clipped in. So that's what gave me the idea. I could probably do a front flip if I clipped in. So I learned it in the snow of the mountains here in Utah. I took a ramp up and hauled ass and just tried it. And I started getting around every time, and I could see it. Like, I'm gonna fucking ride out of this.
In the snow, you were clipped in.
Yeah. I know it's corny, but it's so funny because the evolution of a trick, that's part of the front flip, and I can't claim it because I'll get to that story, you know, with Behringer, but we pushed each other on that trick so hard, and we go lake jumping, we do whatever, you know, and it was just so scary. And I remember the day before I had to fly out there to do it, I knew I was going to do it, you know. I think mentally it was so scary because I wasn't sure, but I knew I could get around, and I did, and I almost rode out of it, but then clipped in, looped out, and straight to back on concrete. From dirt landing to concrete. And so
it was like one of those like extended ones, and then just...
Yeah, it was so... And my back's still so jacked from that wreck. You know, we all have injuries, like I'm sure you do too. But so many memories of that trick, you know, and just how hard I worked on it. And Matt would eventually claim it. And I'll tell you that story, and it's a great one.
I'll take it now.
Okay.
I'm down for it now.
So I think during this time, and we're watching this video, there was a big downhill mountain. At this time, downhill mountain bike racing was getting so big. And Brian Lopes and Sean Palmer, famous snowboarder, and he starts racing mountain bikes and kicking ass, you know, and they're in town in their tour bus, you know, or Brian Lopes calls me up. He's like, hey, Palmer's in town and he wants to come over and check out your backyard. So it was a great marketing tool, or whatever you want to call it. Yeah. It was like a place to go. It was a destination. Yeah. And I thought that was amazing. Yeah. And I love that about the backyard. But so Sean Palmer comes by, and this guy's making so much goddamn money from, you know, riding snowboards. And now he's like a really good downhill mountain bike racer. Yeah. They come over in this gold-plated tour bus. It's like, the thing's got to be worth $2 million. Something parks out inside my little tiny house. You know, my neighbor's like, who the hell is here? Some rock band, or, you know, and that's how he rolled. Yeah. So he comes back, and, you know, just like an average, a normal day in the backyard, just a good session in the evening. There was always a session there. And so Palmer, he's like, so what have you been working on? Like, what, you know, show me what you got. And like, you know, I've been trying front flips, so I want to get this out. And I had to do it. I plan on doing it again at the King of Dirt. Yeah. And he's, oh man. And I go, and somehow I opened my mouth and I was like, you know, me and Matt have been trying it. Matt got around, and he could probably do it too. Because I'll give you whoever, like $400 or something. $200. I think. Yeah. But everyone on the tour bus kicked in money. Is like, whoever gets the trick gets it. And I was like, okay. And in my mind, I was like, finally, I'm going to do this. This gives me some encouragement to do. It wasn't a fun trick at all back then. And so anyway, Matt, he goes, I'll do it. So he's like, fuck it, you know. And he got so damn close, ate shit, you know. And it was so close. And the money started stacking up. And I think Lopes kicked in another $100, you know. And because they saw, like, we were close. And we would tilt up the landing, you know, to make it soft and whatever. And it's so funny because in my mind then, I didn't want him to pull it because I wanted to be the first one to pull it. But then I wanted to pull it to see that. It was a tough one. You
can have conflicting thoughts on it for sure.
It was tough because I just beat my.
I remember that footage somewhere where they hand him the money and stuff afterwards. That's the first one ever.
I couldn't believe it. It was the first front flip, you know. But I thought for sure I got to claim that trick, you know. And I was so pissed because I couldn't backflip that well yet, and you had to learn backflip, so you're done, you know. Like, but no one was doing fronts and a back, you know. And my dream was to do a back and then a front, you know, like that'd be unreal, you know. But then Matt ended up like riding out of it like perfect. And I was so, but once he rode out of it, you know that it's so cool to see a rider ride away from a trick like that.
Yeah.
I was like, holy shit, that really came to life. He did it, you know. But I was jealous at the same time. I'll just admit it.
Yeah.
Damn it.
And then you just laid it to rest after that, huh?
No. I
you
tried
did a couple?
I didn't like it though. I tried it like the NBL, the races on the East Coast. I was still going to races, and they'd have you know, these King of Dirt jams after the race. And I remember in Florida trying it there with a full face on again and wrecking again.
It's so crazy because it's hard to think of you as being like a bit of a hucker in that sense. Like,
oh my God,
like you were.
Yeah.
It was. You know, I have a 1 in 5 on this, but let's go.
It was that trick was scary. I mean, you know, I most of the time I was one of the first ones to land a 720 on dirt. You know,
that was in there. Yeah,
that was the coolest feeling in my life.
So when was that? Since we're on this subject, we could stay on it. We'll jump back. So I have that in my notes. I was like, were you the first to do a 720?
Yeah. Yep.
720 on anything or just on dirt?
On dirt.
Okay, on dirt.
And so I think someone was doing, you know, box jumps and stuff like that, but not on dirt. On a big set of doubles
on an actual jump.
On a jump. You know, and I think Mark Losey was there and he got the footage from it. And he did get video, but someone got like really good footage of that first 720. And they still, it's what's his name from Red Bull? He still has the footage. Mavro. Like, God, sorry, Mav. He still has the footage of that, and I'd love to see it. You know, he's the only one that really got good footage of it. But that was a cool feeling. I mean, anytime you ride away from something like that, and then it's so cool, like the birth of a trick. You know, like. And then eventually, who would have thought you could throw the bars halfway around in a 720 or who knows what they're doing now? You know?
I mean, two tail whips and then a bar spin and all that stuff.
No, it's so nutty.
Where was the first 720?
That was Louisville, Kentucky.
Louisville, okay.
Yep. And
at one of those vans?
NBL.
Oh, NBL thing.
NBL.
Okay, so literally, yeah. So what year is this?
Yeah. That's around 91, 92.
Wow.
No. Sorry. 94?
Okay.
93, 94, somewhere in that era.
Yeah.
But those are the days. Once again, we're getting separated from BMX racing to BMX dirt jumping, you know, but we were always still the sideshow. But I think they had, they would film it for, we were on TV still. I can't think of who was.
I know what you're talking about.
Anyway, it was on TV, and I was like, that's cool, you know, but it put pressure on me I always hated the cameras like that. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, back to Matt, you know, that's so cool, you know, the evolution of any trick. I don't care if it's a bunny hop to, you know, it's cool to see those niches that riders find.
It's funny looking back at the trails. Like the Shank video, the trails are pretty tore up. They're nicer here, but like even compared to like today's standard on jumps.
Oh my God, so I'm embarrassed to like watch this.
Yeah.
But hey, we didn't care about the aesthetics of it.
Yeah.
You just wanted to go ride and like. It was, don't get me wrong, I shoveled my ass off, but it came to the point where I was shoveling more than riding, you know? And so it was so much work, you know, but.
So this was I missed Road Fools 1 for a while. Road Fools 2 was my first.
Your first introduction to Road Fools?
Yeah, and do this video.
Oh,
it was so, you know, fucking Robbie just being a character the whole time.
Crandall. All these guys. And it was so cool because, like, at the time, Road Fools, it was like not intimidating. It was just so different. It was such a great, you know, those guys just put everything they had into it, and I thought it was a digital magazine, like video magazine for the first time ever, really. Yeah. And I just thought, you know, you could always count on Road Fools coming through, and you couldn't wait for this new video to come out.
Props always did a good job of you know, social media is cool. But when you're your filmer, director, editor, you're putting out exactly what you want to put out.
That's true.
And there's a certain, you're projecting how you want to be seen. Where like this, it was like, hey, unfiltered, 1 week, you kind of forget about the cameras at a point and all this stuff, and they put you out as you are or whatever.
This is what you get.
Yeah, as they see you, and you saw. People get angry. You saw people get, you know, be hyped. It was
amazing.
It was cool, man. It was
real. It was so real, you know. And you look back at that, and just to be invited on Road Fools, you know, like was amazing. So, one of the great things was, this is one of the best days in the backyard, and
Yeah.
then we all went out that night and went to a disco club with my wife and just had a riot. It was just
That's the Robbie,
one of those days.
Robbie and the two big girls, right?
Oh my gosh!
Beforehand?
I can't remember. Little Mike Aitken. It's just one of the best days ever. And it was just cool they made the time to come through and ride. And it's the first time I got to meet Steve Crandall, who to this day I'm still just another one of those creative dudes that I look up to.
I love him.
Crandall's one of the best. And so they get out of their tour bus. Now I have 2 tour buses coming through. My neighbors, it's now becoming regular for my neighbors to see a tour bus. And
did you have any problems with the neighbors?
Not one.
Yeah,
not
that's
one.
awesome.
Which is, to me, and it stuck out like so bad, And I remember my neighbors sitting out barbecuing watching us. Like it was amazing. And it was, once again, and I think it helped out a lot of riders in Utah, including Mike Aitken. And, Mikey, I've always known Mikey had the talent way before he was who he is, but one of the best days ever. There's something I wanted to bring up. And Robbie Morales, too, just another character who, Robbie was like always intimidating kind of, I didn't want Robbie to make fun of me or I always felt like,
he'd tear you to pieces.
Are my jeans tight enough? Or like, I got to wear neon, and it was just, he's just pure. He's a lot like Moeller. Maybe that's why, I don't know how those two are doing now, but he's just, they start, does Moeller and Robbie get along nowadays or?
I have heard that they have, mended that was so sick.
I missed that jump.
Yeah.
We all had names. We had a name for every jump too.
I've heard that they've mended it a little bit. I'm sure they're not.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm sure they're not.
We're too old for that shit.
Making dinner for one another and stuff like that. But
okay.
Like I think it's smoothed out a little bit.
They're just 2 great businessmen,
Yeah. And sometimes you could see how there'd be a conflict there at that point.
Totally. Yeah, you almost like watch out for what you ask for or whatever. Now, Robbie's running a successful company with Moeller and but that opened a lot of doors for a lot of riders, including Mike Aitken.
Yeah, so you had this photo. So that
oh my gosh,
that's baby Aitken right there.
Yeah,
right?
That's Mikey. Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Look how little he is.
So,
but he's like the coolest kid. He come out to local. I'm still racing BMX, and Mikey was fast as hell. Holy shit! Like we knew he was going places, And he would just watch us. That's a great photo. Another great photo.
And look at that trick too. By the
way, it was.
Is that? Do you call that? I mean, that's like a knack turn down. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
It's. I probably could still do it through muscle memory today.
Yeah.
At least we don't have like crazy bear trap pedals,
Yeah.
But that was.
So what trails are these?
This was. Gosh, I wish I should call Mikey. It was a grocery store. I'll think about it here in a bit. But Mikey would just sit back, relax, and watch us, and then he'd go try stuff. And he's one of those kids who just sit back, watch, and learn.
Yeah.
But he had the skills, obviously, And it's so cool that Mikey still just gives me a lot of props, Like he would show up at the BMX race, as a little kid, and his seat would be too high, and I'd slam his seat down because my seat's pretty low. Like, my seat is way low there. I love that bike. That was aluminum, by the way.
Well, that's a Mongoose, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm shooting.
And Magoo's still running. That's the solution frame.
Okay.
Which I thought that was one of the best frames. It was ahead of its time. Now we look back and. But that frame was ahead of its time. But that was the first prototype aluminum solution. But I couldn't. I was scared.
Yeah, I would be too.
It's that's a cool photo of Mikey as a little kid.
Yeah. So Mikey comes in, and he's how old at this?
I would say he's probably 13 there.
And then he's like 16 in Road Fools, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
he'd be a little older than that.
Yeah.
Because if that's I'd say he's 13 there. Yeah. Gosh, I'm trying to think of this age.
It's hard. But a few years later, like, he starts showing up to the house, like, when do you recognize that you're like, oh, this kid's, like, a little different?
Well, at the time, him and Behringer started riding together all the time.
Okay.
Like, they would go to contests and meet people, and so Mikey took a lot of, Matt and Mikey were just... They're like best friends, but like always at each other's heads.
Yeah.
They got sick of each other.
Yeah.
And, great stories there too. But, Mikey was just, once again, he'd go to these contests with Behringer, and take it all in, and he'd come back and show up at the yard, or he'd ride street with Elf. Elf's a rider here in Salt Lake City, obviously.
Another legend in his own right.
In his own, and he is. And so Mikey would take in what Elf's doing on street, and what I'm doing on dirt. So it's kind of this cool meltdown of a rider, growing up as a kid here in Utah, and looking up these riders, and taking it all in, and once again being at the right place at the right time. And what happened with Mikey is just like, it seemed like overnight he just became. It just blew up. Wow, Mikey, this is so cool.
Yeah.
And it was so fun to watch Mikey ride. Fun.
It's cool, even in that Road Fools clip. I always like when Robbie's like, man, that kid is bad. You can see his gears turning already, because it's so like they're talking about I think that's one where they talk about T1 a little bit or something. Yep. And then it's like, so T1. he's already eyeballing him for T1, and then it's like, and then he ends up being on fit and stuff like that. So it's like.
And I wanted to help him make the right decision. And I was like, I'm going to let him do his thing, and I didn't want to be the dad kind of deal. I was just proud of him, I think there's some footage of him hitting into the back of a truck in Roy, he went over a berm and hit this truck, and it was so funny. But he was you could just say he had his own style. You see that in riders. Maybe not so much this day. I don't know. I mean, there's stylish riders, and then there's robotic riders too.
Yeah. It definitely is a bit of a lost thing at a certain level. Level.
I mean, we could talk all day, but you just see Mikey shine on through. It's just like, and then he got pounced on like a NFL, superstar.
Yeah.
And overnight, for Mikey, it just changed instantly. But a big part of that is Behringer and him driving in a little, S10 truck to all these crazy events, underground events, and Mikey just take it all in and come back and just blow shit out of the water. Like, it was insane to watch him, just his style. It was just a magic. He's one of those riders, just like magic to watch him ride.
Dave Mavro says hi.
No way. You got the footage?
Yeah. Well, Mavro has the footage.
Oh my God. And he didn't want money?
He said that.
That's awesome. This was a fun contest.
Yeah.
So cool.
That footage is good.
This was what we did, This is how
Mavro's channel is a treasure trove, and
that's
the
cool.
fact that he has all this stuff and he has it so well cataloged.
He is amazing. Everything. He's one of the best filmers of all time.
He's incredible.
He's so amazing.
It's cool to see everything he's doing now too. Bill Nitschke.
Bill Nitschke. Like, I haven't heard that name in a while. He was one of the first guys to pull a tail whip on dirt,
Yeah.
And I thought that was amazing too. And once again, we go back and in BMX, Jody Donnelly. It was like, oh man, so crazy. Jimmy. Jimmy had style too. That's for
for sure.
And,
Jimmy Garcia. I've never seen this.
Jimmy Garcia. This was a fun day. This is a great example of what my life was like during that 91, 92.
Yeah.
And this is what we had to do. But it was so cool. So much fun. Oh, man. Oh, gosh.
JPR and Mad Dog.
Yeah, John Paul. It's so cool.
It's sidetracked, but Mikey, I mean, do you ever trip out that, I feel like maybe it's a bit of a strong statement. Maybe you don't like it, but without you, there's no Behringer. Without Behringer, there's no Mikey. This scene and the influence that it's had over the years. The Cam Woods, the Elfs, the Tate Ross Kellys, just the scene in general of it being such a beacon of creativity and acceptance is it's really cool.
It really is, and it's all such good friends. We all just love riding bikes, and Utah was never really for BMX anyway. Obviously, snowboarding, skiing, you come here, but I think eventually it became a destination. Utah's gorgeous,
it's beautiful.
It's a great place to be, and like I said, it was just I always wanted to bring that back. Everything I learned in Southern California as this young kid, coming back, and then why can't we have that in Utah? Or why do I have to fly to California every week to go do this or that?
Yeah.
And I wanted to bring it home. And so that was my thought, was I want to build my own backyard and do this and not fly across to the East Coast to do a photo shoot, or Southern California I'm getting burnt out on travel. That's what was happening.
Yeah.
I can't believe you got that footage.
I try and dig deep at points.
No, that's amazing. Like, it's funny because I consider that back then is I dabbed my foot down. Now you get shit for that. Back then it was like, he did it.
Yeah. 1992.
Okay.
Brad McDonald calls you up.
Yep.
Says, hey, I want to start a new magazine.
Yep.
Can you come out here and shoot photos? Did he say cover status or what was the...
No, not at all. And I remember that. And I remember, my girlfriend that, Terry, my wife now, we drove down there, all night. And Brad told me, he never said, like, you're going to get the cover. He said, there's a good shot you could get a cover. And I'm like, if there's a chance, I'd give it. That was like the biggest...
lighting the fire under you a little bit.
Kind of, and he, and I just remember how hot it was. I think we're in Riverside?
I think you said Twin Palms.
Twin Palms,
that's like...
Would that be
desert?
Riverside?
That's like desert.
It was hot.
Because there's like a military base out there. That's like Barstow. That's like middle California.
That's up, is it Lancaster area?
Yeah, I think so.
And but I just remember being so hot. And Brad was such a perfectionist, as a photographer. I was like, I don't know how much, but I never let him know I was so tired.
29 Palms or Twin Palms?
It was Twin Palms.
Twin Palms. Okay,
yep.
Well, maybe.
And that was a heyday too. Twin Palms was so much fun.
Yeah.
Along with Sheep Hills, obviously. But anyway, but that day when Brad did call me, I thought Brad was so cool because he wanted to take off and do his own thing. Like, this dude's...
Because he was working at Wizard.
Yeah, Wizard. Yeah. And I just thought it was crazy. This guy's going to start his own magazine,
At this dead time period.
Dead time. Like no one... And that's what you had to do to be out there, And I was like... And it was a cool way. Me and the wife could get a small trip. But it was so much work just to get that. And I'm so glad I did it. And I'm so glad it worked out for Brad too.
So does he call you on like a Tuesday and then you're there 2 days later, or what's the time period?
It was like 2 days. Yeah. I remember we stayed at his apartment. He rented some I remember staying at his apartment, not overnight. We just stayed there and he'd go develop film or whatever stuff he had to do and then we go over and it was just a lot of work to get that one shot, but thank God I did it. And I never thought I'd get a cover out of it, or I've never had a photo go so far with what I was doing at the time, and it just all kind of linked up, and it's so cool.
How many times did he make you do this?
Oh man,
92.
It was, I think I made that trick up. Like I didn't even know how to do it. He goes, could you do this or that? Like, and he'd always give you, photo shoots are my favorite part of riding, is dealing with a photographer, not dealing. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
And Brad was
working with.
Yeah. And I think I just did like, I can't remember what I did. Like just a 1 footer, like kind of just a dark side 1 footer or something like that. And Brad was like, do you think you could exit up all the way around? I was like, I'll try. And I just remember being so hot and tired. And I was like, and it worked out. I was like, holy shit. That was like, I just learned something new, And it was just a cool moment,
That's
for
sick.
sure.
And it's also like, I felt like at the time too, it sums up bike riding and it sums up what Brad wanted to do, because it was like no jerseys, you're just no logo. He's talking to you about doing a cover, and it's not like you're like, oh, I need to get all my
sponsors on.
Yeah,
I could be who I was, and I paid for that trip myself. Did everything. There was no reimbursements. It was just a cool getaway for me and the wife. Go down. I'm gonna do this quick photo shoot, and then we'll come back, which was a 12-hour drive down, 12-hour drive back. But it was so rememberable for sure.
Yeah.
And I think another cool thing about this photo is the number plate.
Yeah.
It's like you still want your sponsors. It's a good mix of like, but thank God it's backwards. It's just an epic. It does. You're right. It claims it. And I'm glad you can't see the number plate, or anything.
But I mean, it's you see it and you go, all right, well, like he's still racing, and it's like that was BMX at the time. Like you're doing both things. Like
doing
it's
both.
Cool.
That's a perfect way to put it, And a lot of racers were trying to move over to jumping now, and like everyone was scattered around, like just to try to make ends meet riding a bike as a professional bike rider, and I'm so glad I did it. I do think I got a royalty from the photo from Magoo at the time. It was I got like $500 for a cover.
Yeah.
We had signed the $250 for a full page or whatever, So that was always, I knew I'd get something out of it, and so did Brad, to pay for the trip,
Yeah.
But I had no idea the photo would go so far. And it's just it's nothing crazy. It's just I shouldn't say simple, but it was hard then, but.
Well, I think it's also something different,
Yeah,
and
it was totally,
that was the whole.
That's anytime you went on a photo shoot, to this day still,
Yeah.
I don't care if you're riding the street, whatever. You're like, no one wants to film the same thing over and over or whatever, and it's cool to invent a trick, or whatever.
I just remember the peach.
The peach, the fuzz, yep. And that interview, I had no idea it goes so far. And I think I told you this, but in that, there's some pull quotes from that interview, and I think I said something about my stepdad, like the only man I wish was dead is my stepdad, because we didn't get along.
Yeah.
And he read it, and I was like, I should have took that back. I should have not said that.
Yeah.
But it turned out to be a good thing, and eventually we became friends, so, but it was just so raw back then to get an interview, in a true interview, like where it wasn't about sponsorship, it wasn't about anything. It was just so pure. And I think Brad always had a good insight on that, from coming from a zine to, what will be a highly published magazine,
Yeah.
There was no money. Like,
Yeah.
It was a tough time for sure. And I think it's always going to be a tough time, but I don't know. I haven't been that involved in it lately, but I don't know how riders are doing financially, or is it, hopefully it's better than.
It's not limited to BMX. I think it's just the nature of the way brands interject money into certain circles or verticals, they don't have a team anymore. They don't create this, they don't do an event. They just pay one dude to do
and that's their dude.
Or they just target those people that like these certain things, and they don't ever interject any money into the industry. And so it's just a little bit, like the game has changed in a sense.
So yeah, and at different times, but I mean, really what it comes down to still is, there's a price for everything. Once again, are you going to get enough out of this rider to where it's worth paying him a paycheck or whatever, And that's one thing that's always made me so upset, is just how the industry couldn't support itself, And it's always been like that. Like, why is skateboarding like making money, and like, why can't BMXers make money? Like, I don't know. BMXers are just tough motherfuckers, and it just sucks that we can't get a grip on it. And it's not that I gave up on the sport or BMX. I don't want to call it that. I mean, because BMX doesn't owe me anything, or doesn't owe anyone anything. It's just this amoeba that just keeps growing. It's so fun to get older and watch it, and how different riders, do things. Like Dennis, I'm so proud of Dennis and what he's doing, and you leave a mark like that. And I tried, I just couldn't get any traction to to do more for BMX, Because in my mind, it's like it all trickles down. And you can ask any pro rider right now, like, and hopefully they're good.
Well, you did do that stuff down the road. I mean, you had involvement with Skull Candy and OGO and Head Rush, where you were cultivating those brands to have a BMX program and trickle that stuff down.
Always.
So let's touch on, you sell the Roy house and the trails. You buy this house, you have the trails, and that's in what year about?
So we moved in this house in 98.
98.
And I'll always remember it because me and Nyquist went on a trip and Chad Kagi, a trip to Tokyo is where we were at. And I had to be here to close on this house, and they couldn't get the handrails done in time. And interest rates went up like another full %. And I'm over in Tokyo with Nyquist and Chad Kagi.
Yeah, and they can't just email you the PDF to sign anymore.
I was stressing out. And I remember I ended up paying, because interest rates went up. That trip I took over to Tokyo and whatever, interest rate went up like a full %, because we couldn't get the handrails done to close on time for the house. So we're doing shows over in Tokyo or whatever, and I'm so stressed about it. And it ended up that it was 1% more. So over 30 years, you amortize that.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money I paid for the handrails. I'm like, dang it, So, but it's all good now.
Then you bring in, trails are bigger and better, and then eventually like ramps come in and all that.
Yeah,
stuff.
ramps was that was another dream, but I shouldn't say bigger and better. That's how I pictured it. But I always look at every like destination, trails, whatever, has their own vibe or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's just a different vibe for sure. But I did have more land, and I could do a lot, and it was all farmland. Now it's all houses back there. It's crazy to see.
Yeah, it was like 30, empty before, right?
I mean, I remember snowmobiling all around this house, and building snowmobile jumps in the backyard in the winter. So, and you can't do that now. But anyway, I mean, it definitely worked. We had a video game, from Activision, all the gamers that design games came out. Like a full crew of them. They all wanted to ride the backyard. I'll never forget that. Putting all those balls over you where they can measure your.
Oh yeah.
That was, and Tony Hawk's game was out, and it was like, I'm going to be a part of this game, and and Midway was the name of the company.
Yeah. What
they
was
were
the name?
great.
What was the name of the?
So it was in Gravity Games Bike, and and it was so cool to catalog all that. And they even got my dog, who's she's long gone now, but she's still alive digitally. It's so cool. My son always got a kick out of that, and that was like the video game era. Mira had his, and it was an amazing time. TJ had his.
Hoffman had it.
Hoffman. Yeah. It was insane, and everyone was like it kind of pissed off all the riders. It made all the riders kind of they're jealous of each other.
Yeah.
If you couldn't get in a video game, like, and I thought that was a great getting traction.
Yeah.
This is a cool moment. But anyway, and that was a lot of money too. It was way cool to see that, and we wouldn't have had that without Tony Hawk.
Yeah.
He opened that door, and then Matt opened the door through Tony Hawk, and then it all once again, everything trickles down. And I got a part of that, and I'm so proud of that. And that was here at this house,
And then did you have there was something else where they put you on a cover of another video game? Was that something that you were?
Yeah, that was Gravity Games Bike. They called, because they all hung out here, the marketing side, and they just had a blast. And one of the guys broke his arm, like trying to jump back here, and I was like, he's gonna sue me. Like, I'm so nervous. They ended up having a blast, and I was in contact, and then I'd fly down to San Diego to meet those guys, once a week to get the controls down, and I go, that doesn't feel right. So, it was so cool to be a part of that and see how it all goes down, and that was great. It was a good golden era right there.
When the trails are going, I feel like that's like, I don't know, I guess this is like when I'm paying attention the most, but like, I don't know, it just felt like, you're fucking busy, kind of in your prime, like, I don't know, what's your prime period? Was it all of the 90s? Is it like,
I don't know. There's like a part where you kind of reinvent yourself as a writer, and but then you're like, I'm a dad now. I'm the old guy. That sucks. Like, no one wants to hang out with an old dude. Shit, and then you got, I don't know. There was like the punk rock side of it, or like people, it was just tough to make everyone happy, I guess, and I never wanted to let anyone down, or like, I never wanted to be, I didn't want, I would take it so personal, like if Robbie Morales said my pants were too baggy. I was.
Did there ever?
I was mental.
Did it feel like you had a time period where you're like, oh, I don't belong? I guess.
Yes, totally.
Towards the end or something, or like riding those events.
Shit, oh man, what I want. It was tough because I would pick up these magazines like, and I had this anxiety like, did someone talk shit on me or like this or that, but. It was just an interesting time. And Elf was like, he was like a new underground rider that it was so fun to ride with Elf during those days, because he just had a cool vision of being, and that was when Street was starting to really, Street was taking on a whole different era. And it was just a weird time, because now you're washed up, you're worn out, whatever, but I never wanted to give up. I just kept trying, and as long as I could make a dirt final, I didn't care,
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm done with being a dad, having 2 kids, raising a family, and it was so hard to balance. You're just juggling.
Your wife worked the whole time.
Oh yeah,
too, right?
And she worked hard, and I did too. And I wouldn't change it for the world, but it was tough, and it's so hard to raise kids and be a professional BMXer at the same time.
What was your last event?
That's a good question. Gosh, I would say.
And did you know it was your last event?
Ooh, that's a better question. That's a damn good question. I'm trying to think of my last event. I never pictured it as like my last event, or whatever. God, how do I explain this? Like, that's a great question. I'm trying to think. I would say for me, it was when live TV came into it, and I just had this weird anxiety about being live on TV.
Yeah.
It was weird to, like, you had to perform under live conditions. And some riders, Nyquist being one of them, like unbelievable. And I was he loved being on that. And I did too. I really like seeing BMX grow and being distributed into, millions of houses all over the world. And it was so cool to be a part of that. And I really cared about it being on TV, being in the magazines. And I would say Nyquist was probably my first taste of like, man, this is going to be a tough way to make it, and what other riders, like Nyquist being one. I mean, he was one of the best, probably one of the winningest rider of all time. I'd like to figure that out. Like who has, Nyquist has to be winning.
He has to be. I mean, he has to, if it's, unless there's more events now in like a Logan Martin, something like that. Or Durs. Durs, but.
Gotcha.
Was there, what was your last X Games? What year was your last X Games?
That would have been, San Diego? No.
It had to be later than San Diego.
Yeah, it was later.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
And then we went San Francisco.
Well, you said 11 years earlier, but I wasn't sure if that was, because I would make it like 2007 11 years, or something.
11-year span of it. Yeah. But I was probably only in 8. How do I explain that?
Yeah.
I think I'm in 8, but it was so cool to see I never really liked X Games, but
did you ever ride Dew Tours, I guess?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's a great question, because in my mind I was like, I still have to have a base to make money, to raise a family, still want to ride a bike. And I got a call from Jack Murphy who helped build the Dew Tours and all that. And I was like, yeah, I'll build the jumps, and it was a dream come true.
But you rode in them?
I still got a ride in them. And that was the question, like, if he built them, does he get a ride in them,
Yeah.
But it was definitely a disadvantage.
So was that at the very first Dew Tours you were building jumps?
Yeah. Rhode Island once again.
Okay.
You had X Games in Rhode Island, then Dew Tours in Rhode Island, or Gravity Games.
Yeah.
It started with Gravity Games and then went to Dew Tour once Mountain Dew bought the rights. But it was fun. But it was in no way an advantage for me to ride or to compete in these events, because you were so tired.
Yeah.
And there's still, God forbid, it rains on the course, and there was just so much stress to make ends meet then, But I would do whatever just to ride a bike, and
Las Vegas 2011?
Oh yeah, I was there.
Okay.
Yeah, is that where TJ got hurt?
Maybe. Maybe it was in Vegas.
Yeah.
Or was it here?
I built those. See, that's where stuff starts to blur.
Yeah,
I built that course.
That's what I mean, though, is like, because it's so like those early years, and then it's like also.
He did
cool. The best fucking launch.
Yeah, all of that. This was all great footage. That was a great contest, other than TJ getting hurt.
Yeah.
That is where TJ got hurt, right? I'm pretty sure.
I think so. I feel like I was there, though, but I missed it.
Yeah, it was a weird wreck.
It was in practice or something.
It was horrible.
Yeah, it was not cool.
Not cool at all.
I don't know. It's always hard because it's like you have, I guess we haven't determined what your last contest was. But
we haven't.
It's all right. That's okay. It doesn't matter. I guess what was your best year, I guess, financially as a pro, and like more just in the sense of like what was like, when did you peak, and then when did you the
start to simmer down? It's all right, Brett.
The inkling of like,
okay,
is this sustainable forever? When you have a great year and then the next year's not as good, you're like, wow, was that it? Did I just peak right there? That makes. Everybody does that. Yeah,
right. It's crazy to think I can't remember my last contest. Man, I kind of like that actually.
Yeah.
But it's man, do you have enough to get sponsors to do this, and how do you always promote yourself better to make more money? And you would see the top people making money were Mira, Nyquist, and now you have agents involved, and like my first agent. I wonder, can I say that on here?
Yeah.
It was Steve Astafan, was his name, and I had the video games coming out.
Same as Mira then.
Yeah, but I met him first, and then I introduced him to Mira and Nyquist, and then those dudes all became nothing is.
Well, Astafan is attracted to money, so
I'm sure he was like pissed off about that whole deal, and I had to pay him like 20% of the video game rights. He didn't do anything for me. He was so cool when he talked to me, and then I show up, to like trying to like work out stuff with my first agent, you know, of all time. And then he's talking, I introduced him to Nyquist and Mira, and then, you know, a year later, here they are making all this money.
Yeah.
And they drove by me in this convertible rental one time. I was like, fuck you guys. Like, I hate you guys. I didn't say that. I disliked him.
Well, if at a time period, if you saw him now, you'd be like, hey, how are you?
I don't even want, like, it was just one of those things where he didn't have any empathy for, it was a straight business cutthroat.
Empty promises, I'm sure is a lot of them and stuff like that, so.
But at the same time, he did a lot for Mira and got some big, you know, it kind of all came around for me because Mira got a piece of that, and then Dave would call me, hey, do you want to do this Mountain Dew commercial in this, you know, in Hollywood? And I made money back that way through Dave and Ryan, you know, like, it was so cool. And once again, it all trickles down, and thank God for Dave calling me, because that was another commercial I made a lot of money on.
Yeah.
So in a way, Aspen lined all that up. And I think he felt bad, you know, that he got my contract and took on Mira and Nyquist. It's like, you know, and so anyway, that all worked out, you know, and once again, here you are trying to ride this wave of, you know, keeping, you know, still be able to ride a bike, pay your bills, raise a family, and stay sane, you know, at the same time. And you always know it's going to end. No one can ride a bike forever and make, you know, I mean, you can. You know, it's always made me mad that, you know, he's retired. It's like, I'm not retired. If I go out and ride my bike right now and do a manual down I'm not retired. I'm still riding. It's just, I just don't get paid to ride a bike. And I'm fine with that. It's like, let the new generation come in, and, you know, I've always been so weird with that. It's like, Vans has been they're still my sponsor, but I don't call them and like, hey, we send me shoes, we do this.
Yeah.
Because I feel like those shoes need to go to another rider. Just like that box showed up the box of shoes showed up at my house in Brigham. Yeah. That was the best feeling in the world.
Yeah.
I always feel like I would be taking, you know, I just want to see, you know, in Vans, Steve Van Dorn is one of the best dudes ever.
Yeah.
Best sponsor I've ever had, you know, and they're still pretty true to themselves, you know.
Yeah, they definitely are. Been a lot of changes, but I think they're trying to make sure that they hold on to a lot of stuff.
Their heritage. I mean, they really are. That's an amazing story in its own, but I'm so proud of riding for Vans that long.
Yeah.
It's so bizarre to, you know, I remember, you know, Mira would talk about the UPS truck, like, oh, this is a great one, like, man, you know, you're washed up, like when the UPS truck doesn't, you hear that distinctive sound of the, you know, and then drops off, you close, like, you know, I always remember Dave saying that, you know, about
like
just
how
washed
up when it passes.
When it passes, and he was so right about it too. It's like, man, no one likes me anymore. I don't get any more clothes, shoes. And I learned to, you know, TJ went through the same thing, and TJ was great for me at that time because he's fuck it, who cares, you know, like. And he was right, you know, but at the same time, he had a big, you know, he was doing fine, you know, but man, at the same time, it was hard to not take it personal sometimes, you know, but once again, all my friends like TJ, you know, hey, this new company in, you know, Canada, Headrush wants to start a whole BMX program. And I was like, let's do it. And that was cool to see a part of it. But once again, no traction, you know, and they realized their budgets and all that. And like, are they getting a good ROI
in return,
on this? And, you know.
So, I mean, you did have that time period where you're definitely doing a lot of like almost industry type guy stuff where you were, so the Headrush and then like OGO and Skull Candy. And then even what year did you started 50-50 with Eddie in a certain year?
Yeah, I was scrambling, like that's for sure.
Yeah.
But I was doing all of that, and
you were still a pro rider at that time. 100%.
100%. But I was still doing stuff on the side, building courses and doing that stuff. But I always wanted to be involved in it, you know. And I always felt like there's always going to be something there for me at the end of my riding career.
Yeah.
And it turns out, you know, Mongoose fucked me over, and I was pissed about that. Me and Bestwick they're suing Bestwick, and you know they bring one dude, you know, to take over a company, a new CEO. And it's just kind of like Trump. One dude can really mess things up, you know? And I knew I was at the tail end of my career, but not ending, you know?
Yeah.
But I still had a year and a half left on that contract with Mongoose, and he just cut it right off. And I took it so personal. Like,
what year was that?
That had to have been, let me check on that. Because that would have been 2000, you know, and Jamie still kills it, you know? And but Jamie ended up suing them because Jamie was riding for GT, which who would have thought GT bought Mongoose, That's crazy. We should talk about that. And I saw that Jamie was suing them. Like, it was a big lawsuit for Jamie. And
for what was he suing them for?
Because this new guy, I won't say his name.
Yeah.
But anyway, he, in fact, I don't think I can. So anyway, he took over the company and screwed over Jamie Bestwick, of all people. How do you screw over Jamie Bestwick, one of the best writers on the planet, and not, he just came in and did budget cuts everywhere. But he had no idea what was going to happen, and which I thought was great. So Jamie ends up suing him. He gets a great lawyer out of like Oregon or something like that.
Yeah.
And I just
2006.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, because I just Googled when did you join Redline? That was 2007.
That's
okay.
what I had, and then that's a great way to put it. So I didn't do anything. I was just upset and just so pissed. I was definitely.
So did you have the chance to talk to them? How did they let you go after 20 some odd years?
It was nuts, and that's what I mean. I always thought I could be a team manager. I'd be the best team manager on earth and do just a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah.
I just thought it'd always be there. It'd be a nice foam pit, to have that career and stay in BMX.
Yeah.
And so I took it so personal, and it was depressing. It was like, the worst was my wife got home from work, and you're not gonna believe this. They cut my contract, and here you are, you're making great money.
Yeah.
And I'm probably making the most money during these years, 2006, 2007, 2008, and then obviously 2008 was insane for everyone. But those were my highest money making days, was, probably 2005, 2006. And then he cut it. It was the end of 2007, I think.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there. But anyway, so I didn't do anything. I didn't, I just hit the punching bag as much as I could.
Yeah.
Just pissed off at this dude. And anyway, so Jamie is in the process of taking them to court. The same Pacific Cycle is the name that owns GT Mongoose.
They're not around anymore.
They're not around anymore. But thank God. But anyway, so I called Jamie, and Jamie was so cool. He goes, "Hey, here's the number to my lawyer. Call him right now." And coolest dude ever, you know. And so I think what comes around goes around, and it's like Jamie helped me out then. Once again, a great friend, writer that helped me out, and it was so cool to get to go through that and get the last hit.
So they basically honored the rest of the contract and paid you out then? Or?
No, not at all.
Oh.
To this day, it was probably like $45,000. I mean, and that was good during maybe it was more. But with contingencies and royalties and all that.
And travel budget.
And travel budget.
Stuff stings.
Oh, gosh.
So did Jamie win his lawsuit?
Yes.
But you didn't join it?
Not yet. Not yet.
Okay, yeah.
So, and I just felt like, and my wife was like, it's just so crazy they did that. And you have all this time built up with Mongoose, and now they one dude comes in just, and I was just so bummed on that, and so anyway, it was a depressing time for sure.
Yeah.
But, once again, just, I got a call from Gork, how many years later, he was working at Redline Bikes, and I think Mike Escamilla was working there, who he thinks I stole his job. Like, because he was team manager, with Garrett, and, and I thought Mike was doing a great job of running, they had the new device frames, and it was amazing, and then he called me up, and I don't know what happened, but he called me up and he goes, "Do you want to help run the team?" I was like, "Hell yeah!" And it wasn't much money, but it kept me in the mix.
Yeah.
And I was still competing, still got to ride, and that was part of the deal. It was like I still get to compete and ride.
Yeah.
So which was amazing. But the owner of Redline, I didn't get along with him too long, or with him. Yeah. I don't think Mike did either.
Yeah, I think that was
a problem, and that's why Gork left too.
I think Mike has discussed it on the podcast, but I can't remember the specifics, unfortunately. So
it was, once again, you're scrambling again, and I didn't want to piss off Rooftop. He's like, I love the dude.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was just a weird time. Everyone was scrambling.
Yeah. So at least at that time, you're like, all right, you lose Mongoose, Redline comes in, but then you have 50-50 at that point. Did you already kind of sell it?
No. We're still running that, and Eddie, my partner, obviously, it never made money. I've never made a dollar off the bike shop, but I felt that was also a way to give back, because everything starts in the bike shop.
How does the bike shop come about?
And so, a good friend of mine, my roommate in my first house, he's like, you have to start a bike shop, and he was helping running a shop here, and he's like, yeah, let's do it. It's time. Let's do it. So we did, we had good money to invest and did all that and so much work, just to get that place going. But it did good, and they just closed it down just like this year. I'm so bummed on that.
So Eddie and you ran it for several years, and finally, I think when you take the job at maybe a Red Bull or something, you kind of bow out.
Yeah, I didn't have the time.
Yeah, and then Eddie kept it going, and you guys had
Eddie loves it.
Eddie is such a good dude. I just haven't seen him in a long time, so I always hate it when I refer to people as like past tense. Like
right,
I haven't seen you for a long time. But, the premise of the shop was cool in the sense that it was 50-50. It was skate and a BMX shop.
Yeah, and it worked. And we're partners, and I love it. It's something I'm proud of, But it's never made us. In fact, lost money, But Eddie loved to run it. There was, enough to live if you cut more people out that wanted a piece of that. But Eddie took it out. He loved it, but he just recently sold it. But it's a tough industry. Running a bike shop is no joke.
Yeah. Now that we're back.
Yep.
Rental cars.
Okay. What do you want to know? Best story, worst story, trouble stories?
Both of them, but I want you to confirm a story that I don't know if this is actually true, but I went to like a Louisville Vans Triple Crown or something with Vic Murphy when I was like 19, 20. So that had to be, I guess like the year 2000, 2001, something like that.
Okay.
And I think we were going to the hotel, and there was just a car that was upside down in the parking lot.
Okay.
And I heard you, and we were like, "What the fuck is that?" Like, kind of just like, "Holy shit!"
It wasn't me.
All right, that was I heard this. I heard like a couple years later that it was your car, or sometime afterward that it was your ar.
You may be thinking about a time I went out with Chris Bennett, who great dude, and we went out beating the car all night, and we're doing just fun stuff, Too crazy now. I would never take that risk, but we bashed the car in pretty good. So it was in the hotel, and it wasn't upside down, but the whole front was gone. and I remember checking that car in. That one I had to pay for that one.
You did?
Yeah. And so I had insurance. I always get the insurance.
Yeah.
Always, and but it was upside down. This car.
I'm pretty sure.
Someone outdid me then.
Yeah.
They just
rolled it and walked away.
It's just so. It's just so fun. I don't know, and it's a bad habit, that's for sure.
So what would you guys do? You guys would just pull the e-brake on the freeway or something like that.
It started off with that, but I always heard these stories about these BMX racers back in the late '80s, early '90s, whatever, beating the hell out of these cars. Like, I want to be a part of that, and I just followed their advice, get the insurance all the time, and it became. And there's stories where cars were so bad. This is what I heard, that cars were so bad, messed up, and the tires were gone, dented, whatever, and it was so bad they had to launch the car into a pond. I've never done that, but I know people that have, and there's just something. And ask TJ Lavin, it's just so fun to pull an e-brake at 100 miles an hour and stay in control, just crazy stuff, and airbags going off all the time with gunpowder all over our faces and stuff like that. It's just, so many fun. It was just a good way to get away from all the madness of an event. You had this car, you could just go take it out in the car or get away from all that. It was just so fun to laugh. And it's just, I'm crazy. I get it.
Who was your best teammate for that?
TJ for sure. TJ Lavin by far. And I think I introduced it to him, and then he took it to a whole other level. to the point, this is one of the best stories. Is TJ has a good friend that wrecked his truck that day, and he claimed it as totaled, so he's going to claim insurance on it or whatever. And we get this crazy idea to take it, and I quit drinking alcohol at this point in my life. I'm going to try, just take 3 months off, to see what it's like, and I'm not drinking that 3 months. It's the most I've almost died in cars. And I thought it'd be so just easy, whatever. And I roll this truck that we get this bright idea to take this truck out to the back of, TJ's desert yard, whatever. It's 2 a.m. And in fact, it was Fudger. His nickname is Fudger, and cheese. Okay. TJ has some funny friends, And he's like, but let's go take this truck out, and the truck was returnable. It ran, everything that wasn't dented, And we take it out, and we're just blazing through, like full-on Baja, like in this Dodge single cab truck.
At 2 in the morning.
2 in the morning, and I'm like, yeah, I'm safe. I'm not drinking. No one's drinking. You know, TJ's friends don't really drink or do it. It just felt, you know, easy, you know. And he just starts going faster, and he just starts sliding through this desert turn, straight out, it's a scene out of a Baja, and just the back wheels are like catch a rock, and we instantly went, like we had been doing 70 at least.
Oh my God.
And I'll always remember, like, it's out of a movie. I remember sliding through the desert with the roof of the truck, and I remember I could feel the gravel, the rock, through my hands, because I'm compressing. We're still sliding on the roof of the truck, right? And smoke's coming out, and I think it was Cheese, TJ's friend. He's like, oh man, I just killed Fuss. Like he really thought like I was jacked. He's like, are you all right? Are you all right? And the smoke's everywhere and everything. I go, yeah, I think I'm all right, but I don't know if my door's gonna open. I remember we both had our seatbelts because we're upside down, and we didn't even think about when you take your seat.
Yeah, you just
we fell straight to neck, you know, like this is crazy. And then TJ's in the chase car, he can't find us, and it had to have been crazy for TJ to come up and see this truck just wrecked, and it was nutty, you know. And I was like, I'm gonna go back to drinking for a little bit. It was so fun. I'm just glad no one got hurt, but we all went in like $800 because he planned on getting money back from insurance, but now he can't because we totaled the truck. So we all kicked in like $800 or something like that. TJ kicked in more, I'm sure. But that was a fun night, you know. But there's just something exciting about wrecking vehicles, you know.
I've had a couple. I had a bad one where we were jumping it, and I think I was drunk, and I let Walter drive, Walter Parender, and I was like, no, come in here, and like I was like, we've been doing this jump. And he jumped it way too far and just like busted the radiator, and I think he got the pan too. And we made it. We only had to go like 2 blocks, and we got 2 blocks to the hotel or something.
I love these stories.
And went and the preface before that was that Ryan Mills, and this was when Ryan Mills was in a bad state, I think, very unhinged. He was like, "Oh, did you get insurance?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then he went around and he punched the car. He put like several
dents,
like 8 to 15 dents, fist-sized dents, and to the point where I was like actually pissed off and like chasing him afterwards.
Oh my gosh.
So then the car had all these like fist-sized dents in random spots. And then now we have broken the car.
But you had insurance on the car?
I had insurance,
Good job.
And I assume I did. And tow truck comes, and in the incident report, I write, it was raining, we went off road.
And there were like punch marks all over.
Yeah, literally
that doesn't make sense.
Like less than 10 words. I was like, I'm saying the least amount because then I can't be liable.
That's
for
what
that.
you do.
Yeah,
you did it right. My team manager, Chuck Fallon, was driving, and I had my foot up on the dash, and he bashed into the freeway, a divider in the freeway, and it blew up the airbags. Like my leg was up on the dash, and I don't know how it didn't snap my leg back. But you know, when the airbags go off, it's crazy. Have you ever had an experience?
No, I haven't, thankfully.
I've had too many. And they're gnarly on your skin, your face, whatever. But that one, I looked out, like my leg would have.
Oh, because your leg was.
I had it up on the dash, and he bashed in, and you can't even tell there's any damage done, other than the airbags. And we had all that shit. We were getting on a flight, and I had to get on. Like that was a scary one. Like, and we weren't even getting that aggro with it. You know, it was just like it just happened.
Did you ever get in trouble for it at all?
So, not once.
Not once. Yeah.
But I'm. You know what?
The irony that you have like a rental car style business these days is like really funny.
I can't. You know, when I got inducted into the Hall of Fame, I was like, I love talking about the rental car stories. That was my favorite part about traveling. And it's so selfish. I get it, but at the same time, I just feel like it was wrong.
We kept the tradition going too. I mean, we used to do the e-brake on the freeway all the time and all that stuff. It is sketchy. Especially when you get the ones back in the day. Well, I think they still have it now, but like where it's you do the foot one and you got and
then double click the foot, boom, boom, and it won't come undone. You like still sliding. The best car for e-brake, Nissan Altima. Oh my God, like the best e-brake. It's just, you can just side, like, it was so fun. I was like, it'd be so fun to be a race car driver, do anything with cars, you know. To see like Ken Block, what he does drifting, you know, RIP Ken, you know, but it was a cool release to get away from everything. And I know it's wrong. And what comes around goes around.
All right, so there was a comment, and we'll get to these overall, but somebody said, Greasy63 said, can't wait to hear his side of Mueller's story. And I was like, what is this? What story is this? And then I asked Mueller, and he just responded, and do you know this story where he says, probably the time I met Fuzzy at the jumping contest in Colorado.
I know it's going to be. Wait, let me guess. Going back to my house from the jumping contest in Colorado, right? That story's pretty good.
Where you guys are watching the footage and you're talking shit on him.
We were just talking about having a hot mic, you know?
Yeah.
So this is back when if you had a video camera at an event, that was a big deal.
Yeah.
You know, my Eddie had a video camera, all that. And that's when I first met Mueller, very first time. And I'm so impressed just to ride with him at this race.
Yeah.
And it was a jumping contest after the BMX race. It was probably like a 20-foot double. And I remember just 360 it for the first time. My first big 360, you know, if you want to call it big back then. Actually, it was hard because it was a flat lip and, you know, but I rode right out of it. And Mueller, you know, anyway, the story goes, they were hot, the video camera. They've never met Mueller. They know who he is, but like, they're like, man, screw that. Buzz should have won or like done this or, you know, something like that. And just talking crap on Mueller, right? And then me and Chris become friends and like, hey, well, you could come back with us to Utah. This is straight after this event. We just met him and he drove back with us all the way from Colorado to Utah. And he stayed at my house in Brigham where I got in fact, I think one of the first prototype S&Ms was delivered at my house I grew up in Brigham. And I would love to find out. I'm pretty sure I was like, holy shit, Chris has only got to be 16, 17, I don't know. Yeah, I would say that.
Yeah.
Barely, you know, could drive and all that, but he's starting his own bike company. And this is when GT, all these big companies, like, who's going to open up their own company?
Yeah.
And he did it. And
he did it.
It's been so fun to watch. By far, one of my favorite brands is S&M, you know, and just seeing Chris and how he thinks internally about making a bike better. And, you know, and it's so cool to see him finally. I wonder if Chris is having a hard time, you know, stepping away from it all or not being so involved.
I feel like he's finding his groove in the sense of like, hey, I'm doing what I want to do.
Yeah.
And that's like his motivator more than anything else. So I think that's a cool thing to find in that sense.
It really is. Like one of my fondest memories of like, you know, seeing Chris, you know, after now he's super successful with S&M, but after hours we pulled up late at night and Chris was still at the warehouse or at S&M and we walked in the office. I can't remember why we were there, but you see Chris out measuring head tube angles and like, it was truly like
Mad
the real deal.
Level.
Just how do I make this better? You know, and like, it's just, you know, you know, I remember Chris took, you know, making a fork back then was nuts. And I remember him going through some guy that broke his forks or whatever was suing S&M when Chris was doing, you know, he's starting to come off the ground high.
Yeah.
And he had to deal with a lawsuit and all that. And we needed new forks, that's for sure. Like, and Chris, you know, 1/1/8 head tubes started coming in and doing all this. It was so cool that you finally had a bike that you could trust or fork and bars and all that. My front ends have always been S&M forks, and even though I'm riding a Taiwan bike, you know, I always had, Chris was always sending me forks and all that. It's so cool to see how Chris did it. You know?
Very cool.
He's very genuine.
Jumping around a little bit, but Road Fools experience.
Oh, gosh.
The Road Fools
13?
getting invited. 2004, you know, like Road Fools series has been going on for a while.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Who's that, Elf? Yes.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, this trip. This is like, I'm not a street rider, you know, like, but I remember I barely missed this pole. Like,
it's good, dude.
I was so stoked on that. Like, God, that was scary. And to have Van Homan on the team, on the crew, it's so cool to get to know these guys. Like, you know, they're just normal dudes, you know. It was so cool, and I was so bummed to get hurt on that. I just wanted to make it the whole way and just have a great Road Fools, you know, but it was so cool to be invited on it.
Yeah.
And I loved it.
This Elf fall is insane.
Yeah. I mean, Elf's taken so many hits, like, through the years, like, oh, Oh my God, that was.
I forgot about that.
That's where I started. Maybe the number 13 is a bad luck number.
Yeah, right.
You know, this is nuts. Van Homan taught me into this.
Did he?
I love Van, man. He's. I heard someone 360 this.
I don't know about that.
That's what I'm here. I'd like to find that out. This is right in front of Mile High Stadium.
Boy, was I nervous. First time he jumped the gap, he got off and whacked over the back.
I broke my ankle.
Did you?
Yeah.
Ended up wrecking his ankle pretty bad. Then Fuzzy got up, pulled it perfect.
It wasn't perfect, but I'll take it.
Fuck.
I came in with landing gear, that's for sure. I heard someone 360 that just recently, which I think is, in real life, that's nuts. That's what the funnest thing about road fools is, like, to see the footage at the end of the day and what everyone did, you know?
It was. I mean, obviously, I feel like that's one of the legendary things of in the sense of road fools, the stuff that has like gone down, like
my gosh.
like a lot of cool shit's gone down, like Reuben 5 and all that stuff. But like that gap is like it's such a bad idea, you know? Like, but it's like, but that's how when the mood hits.
It was so funny because, you know, I would ride street with Elle, but I never dared to do big handrails or anything like that, you know. But what am I going to do on road fools with all these street riders and, you know? And I'm like, I'm the corporate sponsored rider or whatever, but how am I going to impress everyone and have a good time? And I wanted to impress myself more than anything, more than anything. And to get hurt like 3 days in, that sucked, you know. And being hurt on road fools just. I think I got a box of wine and just, I was in so much pain. And Cam Wood, he got hurt too. And everyone got hurt or broke off.
Yeah.
Was,
did you feel like you didn't fit in? Like you were the corporate dude in a sense?
That's just me being me. I'm just too sensitive with that stuff. But that's what I mean. Once it starts settling in, it's like, this is so amazing. This is fun. I wanted to go on more, you know?
I mean, I've always just considered you as like universally loved. Does that make sense? Like kind of like Gary, you know, like where it's like people all love Gary, and
who
it's like
would
people
hate Gary?
Who would hate you?
It's it's so funny because my wife says that, and sometimes I don't get it. I just feel that's me being me.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think too much, you know, and that's it. But I think my neighbor hates me right now. Does that count?
Well, fuck that guy. That's easy. That's easy.
Thank you.
I don't even know anything about it, but I'm Team Fuzz.
It just sucks. It sucks to have a neighbor that close now, and you've grown up in this backyard. And have a dad live next to you, or someone some
weirdo,
or stepdad living. Yeah, he's weird. But yeah, the road fool, that like just such a great concept of. It's just amazing. Like
it's such a great thing. It's so hard to replicate these days. The same, you know.
Why is that? Why can't you? Why can't you do it?
I think it's just. I mean, Dig did it with Project X. I don't know if you caught that. Yeah. But it was great. But I just don't think when you're inundated by 80,000 clips a day and all this stuff, it just doesn't have the same. It doesn't resonate with you the same amount that it could when it was a kid. Like thinking about what resonates with a child these days is very interesting.
It's insane. It's
Yeah.
nuts. And I remember my first taste of things changing in this world was digital photography.
Yeah.
You know, and then the first, you know, Brad shot that on film.
Yeah.
You had to wait. It was so crazy to wait a whole 2 days to get the film produced, and like you're just praying that it showed up good, you know, whatever. And then when Losi called me to reshoot the, you know, the anniversary of Ride, 10 years, and I was like, I know I can still. I went out in the backyard, practiced the trick, you know, for a few days before Losi got here to shoot that, and I hadn't shot with a digital photographer yet. You know, I heard about it, you know, like over the last 6 months before that shot, and Losi comes out. We go out, and I think he went in the backyard and he was ready to shoot right then. I was like, we're gonna do it now? Or no, we waited for you know the sun to kind of go down and all that. And I had this big picture. It's going to take me forever to get the right shot to emulate it and make it look identical. And I remember looking at his camera going, I can't believe this is happening. It's like quick now, you know, like it's it was so cool to see that.
I'm trying to pull it up, but it's
But yeah, right. I think that everything is so fast, and the younger generation, like it has to be instant. How can it be more instant now? And I think that's kind of what it's hard for, like a road fool's kind of a cool concept like that.
to just have the impact that it did, you know.
Yeah, it's like, gosh, now, you know, I feel bad for a lot of the riders. Like, there's a camera, you better have a cameraman with you or someone that can film all the time.
Yeah,
it's like, when do you draw the line? When does it stop being just absolutely insane? And some riders, like, they relish in that, you know, and some riders don't. But my, how times have changed.
So I guess that's the best photo I can find at the moment.
Yeah,
it's funny. This goes to Matt Bischoff.
It's so funny.
Hopefully that's not still.
That's Matt Bischoff.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Hopefully it's still not his address because it's on
the
internet now.
But yeah, I mean, we did that in 2 shots, and I had this thing built up in my head. It's going to take all night to shoot this.
Yeah.
And but that was my first like digital
foray type
where it was dialed and it was instant like that, and I was like, that is amazing. I was like, well, what do we do now, Losi? Like, we're done.
We just hang out.
Yeah, it was great. And
was it hard to? I mean, I'm sure you've done the trick since, but did you have, you know, like, did you have to practice it? You know, make sure you still had it. I
totally did, because Losi gave me one like, I'm coming in, and it was a surprise.
Yeah.
And he, you know, he goes, hey, I'm gonna let you know, like, we're gonna give you the anniversary, you know, the 100th issue anniversary. I was like, you got to be kidding me. And it was just another reason, like, a friend kept me in the game of, like, that's when I was like, man, I'm watching. But that was it made me feel so good inside to do that, you know? It's just.
I do wish you were kind of shirtless, though. Wish you were shirtless wearing shorts and stuff.
Someone else said that, you know? Yeah. It'd be fun to get fit again and just do it again, you know?
Yeah, he probably wouldn't have been as, like, tan, you know? Like,
I was, because it was just, that's how you, it's just so cool to ride that day like that. Now you probably I should have worn a helmet. That's funny, I got a helmet on and then you don't, you know? It's so funny.
Yeah. It's always a trip looking back at some of the, you know, even just the road full stuff. Nobody's wearing a helmet riding dirt.
I know.
Nastasio, it was not that common. Like, you're like, oh, I'm going to the trails. Like, why would I wear a helmet at the trails?
Exactly.
Like, at the contest, sure.
And what changed that? I mean, what was it? Mikey's wreck? Was it, you know?
I think I don't know. I think there was a couple, and then, you know, I think, you know, Stephen Murray's thing fucked people up.
Oh my God, that messed me up horribly.
Yeah, I wasn't there for that, thankfully. I think you were there, right?
I built the jump, you know. I to this day, I'm like, man, I could have made the lip better, or his foot didn't fall off, you know, in the flip, like, you know, but. One crazy thing about Murray is, I mean, I love the dude, and that was the pinnacle of his career.
Yeah,
he was beating Nyquist, you know, and all this stuff, and to see it end so abruptly. But I remember the whole year went by. That happened in what, Boston or no, it was back east.
Oh.
I'll think of it here in a sec.
Yeah.
But a year later, his dad, you know, Steven's paralyzed. Everything, a whole year's gone by. He's lucky to be alive for sure, thank God, and. I remember the next year we're building jumps in the same spot for the next year's contest. I remember his dad, we were building the last jump, and his dad, we were building that, and his dad was just like sitting there where the last jump was. And I always wondered what was going through his mind to have your son paralyzed, you know, and just it was a life changer. Like,
eerie.
It was so eerie, and I've always wondered what's going through his mind. Like, he knew how bad it's going to continue to get.
Yeah.
And financially, oh my God, you know?
Yeah.
And so, anyway, I don't want to talk all bad.
Yeah.
You know, but
I think Murray's fall had ripples, but he was doing something crazy. You know? So it was a lot of like, well, he was trying to double flip, like that's a dangerous trick, all this stuff. And then Mikey falls, and it's like, Mikey's the best on the planet. Obviously, it's a fucking hard trick, but...
Yeah.
If it can happen to him, it really can happen to anybody.
And it's in those moments, you know, and I've had those where I've lucked out. I'm so lucky through my career where I could have been like that. Anyone could have been.
Yeah.
You know, but with Mikey, he was like a superhero. Mikey's on top of the sport. Same with Murray. That day I was there.
Yeah.
You couldn't stop him. He was like in the zone of like, I've never seen Murray ride like that. Everything he did. And he was training so hard. Not training. I was just riding his ass off.
They were. You could say that. They use that word these days.
It was so horrible to see that, to see how he was going to win everything that night, you know, and then it just went that bad. Not only that, it was live on TV.
Yeah.
And to go, and YouTube was just starting to get really big, you know, and like
I've never seen the fall.
It's ingrained in my, it's just, man, could I have made that lip better, like, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
And I remember, you know, Gilly, who helped me build dirt jumps, you know, along with Elf. And we checked the lip out. Me and Gilly sat there and looked at it, and it was fine.
Yeah.
It was, you know, but it's hard for me. Like, why did his foot fall off, you know? And I hate to relive that moment.
Yeah, it doesn't fall off because of the lip, you know, like there's nothing, but...
He was just so compressed, and he was just he was so focused that night, and there was nothing stopping him. And it's almost like he was so confident that just bit him, you know?
Yeah.
So you always got to have that cat-like, and that's the thing with Mikey, is Mikey has like, I've never seen anyone get out of a wreck like a cat every time, where he can just get away with murder, you know, and to see Mikey, and that, you know, at Posh Trails, like this jump, it's big. I mean, to 3 it is nuts. And you came in on an angle. It was just it's a fun jump, but it's to hear that, it was nuts. But yeah, back to helmets, it was, I think we all started to realize, wow, this is getting out of hand. Like shit's crazy. Yeah. And not just the street it still is nuts, you know, what they're doing. And
but it's still, even that's coming around a little bit.
Is it?
Yeah, I mean,
that's
like
great.
Alex Donachie, who won Street Rider the year last year, put out like fucking 3 or 4 insane video parts.
Damn.
And he wears a helmet in every single clip.
That's great.
So it's like, it's not...
That's great.
Yeah.
It's, and that's the problem. I mean, you look at, and that's another thing, you know, just talking about head injuries. I've been knocked out 3 major times through my whole career where I wonder, I definitely have. The dogs are going to...
No, that's fine. You're fine.
I just, man, you know, the whole CTE thing along with Mira, it's really, is it really possible, you know? And every once I'll talk to Katie about it, and it's so cool to still, as an older BMXer, like, what are the next 20 years of my life? There's a price for everything, right? Did my career in BMX and all those wrecks and all that stuff, did it add up to where now I have CTE and, like, you know, I have dementia, or you you go insane, like,
should have stayed in your bubble on the couch, though, you know?
Like, that's...
how are you going to live at a point?
When you're dying on a couch or whatever, but you know, but I just worry about it. I don't want to see anyone go through what Mikey truly, at the pinnacle of his career, once again, everything just, and, you know, and Moeller took care of him, still does, you know? All of the above, and just, but it's sad. It breaks my heart to this day. You know?
Did it have a ripple throughout the scene in a big way? Yeah.
It was nuts. I remember trying to get him home on a jet airplane, you know, getting money together for that, and then seeing him. We finally got him back. Or his whole family got, not just me, everyone. Yeah. It took a village, you know.
The community,
And just to go down and see Mikey in the hospital locally, and when he finally started coming out of it, it was just insane. Just thank God he's alive, you know. But it's just Mike Aitken's hurt, you know, like it was and I truly feel like Mikey's one of the top 5 riders of all time. That's how I feel.
100%.
And he paid a big price for it. And I wish he always should have, would have, could have gone, I shouldn't have 3'd that jump. I shouldn't have done this. But you're right. You're not sitting on the couch. You're changing the sport. In a good way.
Living a lot of life. And it's like sometimes it's hard.
And I always feel bad for Stu, you know, who's the filming Mike. And he asked Mike, hey, I think him and Chase were going to go back and get dinner. They've been riding all day, and Mikey was tired. And Mikey, his regret is that he was so tired. And I think Stu, the filmer, it feels bad that he asked him to 3 that jump, you know, and it's just that quick, you know. And he goes, I was just tired. And and it's funny because if you talk to Mike, he can remember more and more of it, you know, as time goes by.
So I have a bit of a, more so these days than anything else, like if somebody, I hate asking for somebody to do something over again. So I phrase it, I go, you know, like if it's at an event or something like that, I go, hey, I'm going to stand right here for a while. And if you feel like doing that thing again or whatever, like I will be ready to film it. Like, but if you don't want to, don't do it. Like I say it in such a weird backwards way. That's because funny. Because of, not you know, funny. Like I've asked like Rob Darden to shoot a one-handed table and blew his knee out at a dude tour, and I was like, fuck me, man. Like I apologized to him about it, like within
I'm
the
so
last
sorry.
couple years. It's still, again, like, hey, I'm sorry about that dude tour thing again. And he's like, dude, shut the
Darden's
fuck up.
the coolest dude ever.
Shut the fuck up. But
Yeah,
like,
it's my choice.
Yeah, but there's been a couple of those over the years where I'm like, hey, like, I just don't want that on my conscience of asking stuff again,
Right.
But
That's funny because from a rider side to, someone like that is a touchy subject now.
Yeah.
I think to this day when Stu was filming Anthem, like it's still
a different level. It's hard.
It's hard. And like how many times can you redo that stuff or it's crazy what they're getting away with as far as riding goes. You know?
And he
the
knows
risk.
Mikey is confident about it too. Like if Mikey felt like he didn't want to do it, he would say. And Mikey's also the type of dude who would say, nah.
He would. And he would say it just like that.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where I feel bad for Stu.
Yeah.
And it's one of those moments in BMX that changed,
changed a lot.
It changed a lot.
And what? Honestly, like this is definitely a glass half full perspective. Mikey could have saved lives.
Yeah.
In a sense of like the ripple effect of him falling and people going like, all right, helmets. I started wearing a helmet afterwards.
Yep.
And thousands of other people did too. So he could have saved lives.
Yeah.
So,
I guarantee he did. Mikey went through this phase where he talked about trying to get your career back, and that's so tough. But he really pitched the helmet thing, and he had I think ProTech reached out to him and they designed a helmet.
Yeah.
But it didn't pan out or something like that. I wish it could have, and it still could, but it's just one of those moments in BMX that just sucks, It's but there's way more great moments than there are things like that.
Of course,
but there's and it's just I feel bad for Steven and Mikey, But with Steven, it was just crazy to be there that night and just it's like I said, I don't want to be negative. It's just one of those things that, man, it messed me up mentally.
Yeah.
It was a bad one. And to see his dad out there just the way it was, just, man, so tough.
You're building these courses,
2008.
Yeah. When do you, is there a time period where you go, all right, I'm not a pro bike rider anymore. I'm like a course builder, team manager, something? Or
yes,
is that,
and it hurts. It's so hard because
When was that?
That had been earlier than that. That would have been around 2006 maybe, where things started. Yeah, because I'm trying to think 2008, that was Redline, all that stuff. Oh, even earlier, maybe, you don't want to admit it, but they're, God, what am I trying to say?
But I mean, like 2008, you're still getting checks from from brands, so you're still a pro rider,
but not like it used to be.
Yeah,
money's simmering down.
Of course,
the UPS truck isn't pulling up as much.
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
Yeah.
and the pressure of being a father and doing all this and your neighbor's like he makes money riding bikes, and just and I was so proud of that. And then as it diminishes, it's like so hard. And if you look at any athlete, I don't care if you're NFL or alcohol, drugs, all that, depression. I've been there, done that, and it hurts. It's so you feel like you're. It's like family, like they kicked you out of the house, maybe, or it. But I built that up in my head. My own personal problem was building that up. Like it was my fault. Like I thought of myself like not worthy anymore. Not But I always felt like I always want to be around BMX, when I had Mongoose to fall back on and all that. And then everything just went bad at once and just once again. So through those years, it was just like, telling my wife that I just lost my job and a 1.5-year contract and what are we going to do? We would have been fine, but I never got to make the money like Mira and Nyquist, TJ, nothing like that. I was just close, but no cigar.
Yeah.
And I wish I could have, but I didn't. And, it was just one of those things where the depression sets in and you don't want to ride your bike anymore. You don't want to do this. And, why even bother? Who cares? But it's not true. And I get it. But I had to find a way to support my family. And we started a transportation company. It is not Uber. It's just a black car service, which means that we move people up and down the mountain to go skiing.
Yeah.
And I just fell in love with meeting people and doing that and reinventing myself in the business world. So here I am. I don't even know how to send an email, really. I'm not the fastest typer. I'm like, hon, can you come help me? Thank God my wife's a school teacher. And she's, let's do this, and I'm like, what am I going to do? And I'm reaching
Well, what about the Red Bull years? That was
that would have
years.
been after Redline, but Redline taught me a little bit, but
I said Red Bull.
Yeah, I went Redline and then to Red Bull right after.
Yeah, and then how many years were you at Red Bull?
So I was at Red Bull for 2.5 years.
2.5 years.
And that was the roughest years of my life. And don't get me wrong, I love Red Bull, but it was nothing like what I thought behind the scenes of it. I mean, it's one of the top 10 most marketed, it is in the top 10 marketed companies in the world. And they still are. And it's a love-hate relationship.
So you were athlete marketing manager, one of those types. So you were you could put people on Red Bull.
Oh my God, yeah. I got Hucker on there, and I was like, on the outside looking in. And then once again, you get into budgets, and then
how do you get that job?
And so this is crazy how I got the job. I just applied for it like a year before. It took Red Bull a whole year, and Redline hired me before that.
Okay.
I sent out a ton. I didn't even know how to send out a resume for Helsinki. It was tough mentally. It was like, but I was so bound to learn like how to send an email really fast. And I didn't know how to CC anyone for the hell's sake. It was bad. That was that bad, right?
Yeah.
It was so shitty. But I learned
Terry's
fast.
patting you on the head.
Yeah, like it's all right. We're gonna. But that's when it sunk in. Like I'm behind a desk now. Like I don't. But I started figuring stuff out, and it was really cool. So anyway, like I remember like Red Bull called me a year. I'm working for Redline.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe how much money they paid. I'm like, but you got to move to Texas. And so I'm like, oh. But here's what happened. 2008. This is 2008. The housing market crashes, right?
Yeah.
And no one can sell a house to save the world, whatever. Yeah. And they said, it's all right. We'll just let you fly back and forth to Dallas. That's where Red Bull, I had to go to Dallas on Monday, get back on Wednesday, and be in these huge corporate meetings, which it was cool to see how it worked internally and how they market themselves. And I learned so much, but it was so stressful for me to act like I knew what I was doing,
Imposter syndrome.
Yeah. And the sports marketing manager, I'm the athlete manager, and then you have a sports marketing manager, such a cool guy. He goes, well, Fuzz, you can't ride anymore. And I thought he was joking. I really thought he was joking. And this is when it really settled in. I was like, what? Because I really wanted to take Red Bull and use their travel budget, be an athlete manager, and still get to do what I do,
participate,
and not take the big risks like riders are doing, and be around BMX, And he goes, no, you're going to manage not just BMX, you're going to manage all these athletes, and one of them was DeMarcus Ware, the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know anything about NFL. Like I knew nothing. Who's DeMarcus Ware? And it turns out I get to run those budgets and do all this, but I'm slowly starting to not ride my bike anymore, sit behind a laptop more. And, but it's still intriguing, but it was so intense, Red Bull's behind the scenes, it's intense. And the burnout rate's got to be high, And anyway, so I gave it my all, but I learned a lot. I signed my first contract with an NFL player, a big deal. Became really good friends with him, and see how the NFL works, And I was, as a BMX, you're always like, I don't like baseball, I don't like football, I don't like any, mainstream sports. But now you get to see their side of it, and that was cool. That's what kind of saved me from thinking about my bike so much and making damn good money. Obviously it's Red Bull, but the restrictions of yanking an athlete out, a bike rider out of his world, and then you get thrown in this other world where you have to let this world go, but you're learning all this stuff, and I learned so much about the corporate world and why
you didn't want to be there.
And I thought it'd be easy, and it was not. It was so bad. And to be around BMX and make a living riding a bike, to get thrown behind a desk, it was so hard for me.
You did get to do a lot of cool stuff and projects. So like where you participated in Dreamline stuff, those Mexico courses with the cradles.
It's so fun.
And the Hucker loop thing and stuff like that.
Thank God for Morgan Wade, just stuff like that. And at the time, when Morgan did the full loop, all that was designed for Hucker. It was, that's what you do, is you build stories for these bike riders or football players. And I love that creative side of it, but you got to stay within these budgets and your KPIs, your key performance indicators. So many acronyms, I had to learn all these acronyms. I didn't know what is all these acronyms, but the time I couldn't, I kept flying back and forth to Dallas to Red Bull and doing my thing. And I get back and go, man, I want to ride. And by the time you get back, you're doing your quarterly numbers for your budgets, and like it just started like, this is real. I'm gonna get him in. But this is something I definitely want to talk about, because I think we're all getting older, right? And as you know, I don't know who okay, here's a good example. Like Kevin Peraza, one of my great rider, great dude. His dad's cool, and you have kids. It's like I just told him, I go, man, you just keep doing what you're doing. Don't even think about it. Don't let the bad thoughts get through, that you're washed up, that you're, all that, and ride it as far as you can ride it, because it's a cool thing, you know? And it's, my wife's an educator, heavily educated, and I'm not, I'm a high school dropout, and it's not that I couldn't make it through. I didn't want to, I know I could have, but my whole life got taken over for the next 25 years riding a BMX bike. But the education I got from travel was insane. And I've met so many people that helped me out through all that, but it did feel like, man, I have to let this go. It's so hard. But
especially jumping into an intense company like Red Bull. Like you didn't really get this this burn, like a slow burn into it, or a transfer, like when you change your dog's food and you go, all right, you go 50% and then like 25.
Exactly.
And then, so they don't get an upset stomach.
It's so true. That's a good way to put it, right? That's a really good way to put it. And it was depressing. But in the back of my mind, as I'm working for Red Bull, I'm like, well, at least I'm making damn good money. I can still ride my bike, you know? But to know that they're not going to let an athlete manager get hurt riding his bike or competing still. And that slapped me in the face. I was like, whoa, wait a minute, So, but the fact that I could give back to BMX and do all this cool stuff, and I fought so hard for Hucker, and he's just not a Red Bull material. I mean, trust me, you got to get this kid on the team, and it was so fun to negotiate those contracts and help those riders out, and kind of like the bike shop, everything transfers up through a bike shop, all the talent in who they are as a human. And I love that part of it. And to call up an athlete, and I don't know if you know about Red Bull, and I'm sure you do, but I'm going to tell everyone, a Red Bull hat, you're never going to see a Red Bull hat like a Monster hat. And as an athlete manager, it was such a cool thing to, go to Santa Monica, Red Bull's headquarters, and they got a hat cage and so many Red Bull hats, and they're all locked up, and you get to sign the athlete, the contract. And the cool moment for an athlete and a manager is to go to Red Bull and get them that hat. And it's just sugar water, that's all it is, but the brand is incredible.
The brand is wild. I mean, what they've done in the media, and they became their own media. They became their own event company. They became their own marketers. They could go to fucking space.
It's nuts. It's that's what I loved, is you had this idea in the back of your mind, well, what if we launched this into space, or he jumps out of there was no limits as far as what, and you had these moments oh my God, I'm going to do this and I'm going to pitch it. And what happened with me, this is really cool. One of the highlights at Red Bull for me was that my sports marketing manager quit, and I didn't have to sell my house. They're saying, you just live there, keep coming back and forth until.
Okay, that was going to be one of my questions. Because you did talk about Dallas.
There's always that. I had to sell my house, move my family to Dallas, and that was the original plan going in that first year at Red Bull, and it was just so stressful. And I'm trying to think and I had to learn how to run a laptop, for hell's sake. That's how bad it was. And I faked it until I could, and anyway, what happened, this is pretty cool. So at Red Bull, I'm going back and forth, Salt Lake to Dallas and all this stuff. And I'm very intrigued with the NFL and these other athletes that are outside of my little world of BMX. You don't realize how big the world is until you've been in this world of BMX, but then you get out in the real world. I shouldn't say it like that. A different world, that's massive, and there's so much going on. And how do you bring these creative ideas to life and do all this stuff? But anyway, my sports marketing manager, his name was Ben Garcia, super great guy. He taught me a lot during those first 4 months, and he goes, this is what you're going to go through. You're going to learn this brand really well, which he was right. And I became really, it was just so much fun. And all of a sudden, Ben gets a major job at Anheuser-Busch, in Texas. So he has to quit Red Bull after he's been there 10 years. In Red Bull years, that's a long time. And I think he's burnt out, you know. So now I'm taking over his major contracts, with these athletes and learning so much. And the way Red Bull, I don't know if I can say this, but I don't give a shit. One, I want everyone to know, like, it's a love-hate relationship with me and Red Bull and all that. And I learned a lot from him. But anyway, the pressure was on for me now to go to Santa Monica in his spot and pitch these ideas. And at this table, Terry was helping me type and everything is fast. Yeah. I'm punt and peck, it was horrible. And at Red Bull, you put these ideas together, and every sports marketing manager does it, athlete manager, and what crazy stuff. And then you got to go to Santa Monica and then pitch it to the Austrians, Yeah. They come over, fly all the way over, and you better be able to
articulate
pitch it. Pitch it. Yeah. And it's very rare that within that first year, I was in that room in Santa Monica with all these heavy hitters, and here's the ideas we have, and how to pitch it I learned so much. But it became where I was doing so much with it. And what happened to me is, like, at Red Bull, you get paid to play. Like, it became like, as an athlete manager, you're a part of that athlete's successes, everything they do. It's always a party. But in BMX, you go out, and we all like to party. You go out and at an event like this week in Salt Lake, everyone, BMX, you just got a bar, drink, whatever. And you may be hungover the next day or whatever. But at Red Bull, it's like you're on to the next one. There's no break in between.
Yeah.
You may have a Monday morning hangover or whatever, but you're on to the next big thing. And then you're expected to go out and have a great time with the athletes, which I have no problem with, but I'm getting older, This is a job really for a 24, 25, 26-year-old, whatever. They can travel the world and get paid really well, but there's only so much you can, it started breaking me down. Yeah. And you start blurring the days because you're out partying so much, and it's, here's a good example. It's like with the other athlete managers, there's only 5 in the United States. There's not that many athlete managers, but it became like, who could have the biggest bar tab,
Oh,
and
shit.
so I started drinking a lot, and it was just part of the culture. That's how Red Bull is, like Red Bull and vodka, and you have on-premise, which is, when you serve a Red Bull at a bar, it's called on-premise, and they mix vodka or whatever, and there's some nights I would come out of there, I can't remember what bar it was, but I was winning the whole bar tab thing,
Yeah.
I was up to, my bar tab was $9,015 or something like that.
Fuck.
And I was just, is that real? And I had an unlimited card, and I remember running up my card, my American Express, there's some days it'd go up to 50 grand.
Yeah.
You get reimbursed and all that, but I fronted that money and then you get reimbursed, you check it. And, but it became like this revolving door of like drinking and madness, just crazy stuff. And Red Bull probably will hate me for this, but I don't care. It's something that I want to say. And it just became a habit, and no one there, you don't talk about it, but it obviously, your performance maybe goes down, whatever. And it just became so stressful. I have a house in Utah that we can't sell. And where am I going to go with this job? They want me to go to Dallas. And the more I went to Dallas, I'm like, I don't want to live in Dallas, And so I rode that way for a while. And, but anyway, it just came to the point where I can't do it. I can't do it anymore. And
so basically, like, besides burning you out, like, on a daily basis, the expectation was that you would have to live, if you had an athlete that was trying to party, that you had to be there alongside to make sure that they were taken care of and that they didn't have to come out of pocket.
Exactly.
And then you get mixed in this. Yeah, I mean, it almost seems like a scene from a movie where it's like you get thrust into this world and if it builds up over, again, like if it builds up over time, maybe you go, all right, well, I can learn how to handle this. But in the beginning, when it's like, all right, now I'm thrust into this.
It becomes competitive in a way, like you run these budgets up. Who cares? That's part of it. The bigger the bar tab, the better, and it works. Part of that
culture of it.
Yeah. So anyway, it got to the point where, doing these events, or not events, I mean, a few of them, but more the athlete projects, which I still to this day, this is why I love them,
Yeah.
It's like you could have what's Hucker good at? Let's throw him into this world, or something that he's always wanted to do, and give that bike rider, athlete, whatever, unlimited, like, here's the idea I want to do, you know? And so it was so cool to see these other sports, like, you know, motocross, obviously, just, you know, Levi the Valley, who runs a snowmobile. What if we, you know, did some cool stuff with this athlete or that athlete? And you're always coming out of this world, which I love, but it was to be expected. You never got a break, you know? And so that's what I'm saying. It's for a younger, I wish I would have had the education where it didn't take me so long to learn how to send an email and do all this crazy stuff behind a laptop and run these numbers. And I wish I would have been younger for that job, you know? So it's one of those things, like, as you do age, or you get older as a bike rider, it's like, one, don't expect anything. Like, BMX doesn't owe you anything. And it doesn't work like that, you know? And don't be shocked when, you know, a contract breaks up. And, you know, I wasn't ready for that. And I wish I would have went back in time and went to college and done something different. Regrets? Maybe. Like, but now I look back on it and no way. It's taught me so much. It's taught me how to run a business, and a successful business. This is our 10th year in business, and it's a dream come true like that. And, but back to what I was saying, it was just like so much pressure. But, so basically we had to talk. I don't know what happened in Dallas. Like, Ben left. That should have been a sign that Ben, my boss, who I loved, you know, he quit. That should have been a sign right there. So it just built up pressure. And, you know, but anyway, what I'm trying to say is they helped me out through a major problem, you know, that I had in my life at the time, which was alcohol, because, and it wasn't Rebels. They're never going to admit that, you know, but
you know, I heard this at a point. I have this written down. I said that the demand kind of like
wears you out.
It just pushed you into a weird sense of, like, you cope with a drink, and then you cope with a drink, and then all of a sudden
it turns into a nightmare. And I was like, when is this a problem? You know, and, you know, everyone can look at an alcoholic and go, you know, when you can't do your job anymore, do it right, or, you know, you start showing up late, you know, you're not committed anymore. And it's hard when you're in that world you don't see yourself. You're the last one to know. Unless you're a good friend. A good friend will say, hey, you might want to chill out a little bit. But in that world, I don't have any friends, because I'm no longer really in BMX. I'm in this whole other world, you know, and it was crazy to me to see that world. And I'm glad I did it. And they always had my back. They knew that the job's gnarly and we're going to get you help, and did it. And it's something like...
Oh, so they actually helped?
Okay. And it was so cool, because I got to take a breather for a minute, and my wife, you know, my wife's ready to leave me. It's just shitty the whole time. And I was the last one to realize it. And then I just had a good talk with myself. And, you know, TJ was a big help. Nyquist was a big help. Nyquist sent me one of the best emails. Like, it was just cool. You know, TJ, obviously, and Mulligan. And Mulligan said, you might want to chill out a little bit, you know, but you don't see that as an alcoholic. And I'm not saying, I'm definitely saying that. I don't want to get into an AA meeting or anything like that. I just want other riders, like, it's part of BMX, it's drinking, it's fun. It was never a problem until then. You know, it definitely progressed, you know, the more stress I had, and the more it was to be expected to hang out with these athletes and drink more. You know, and it becomes a normal thing. And I don't know what Red Bulls say. They don't give a shit if they saw this.
I mean, it's I'm sure they have examples on both sides of the fence where it's somebody can somehow cope with it and other people can't, you know.
It's so
it's
crazy.
Like, it's definitely, you have a unique recipe of it, in the sense where it's like you also want to keep up with these people, where sometimes maybe a lot of the athlete managers are like, I'm going to have water all night. I don't give a fuck. But so it's one of those things. But either way, I'm glad. It's good that they helped out in a sense, and it's good that you had a support system to get through that. And
they made sure, and like I said, they really stepped up and helped me out, because I didn't see it, and it was one of the coolest things to be so aware of alcohol and what it takes to fix it, you know, and how. But they paid for everything to go through rehab, to do this, and I learned a lot about myself through rehab. But at the same time, you know, you're sitting in an AA class and you want to ride your bike still, and now you're here and you can't even do that. So that was a rough time, but they backed it up 100%.
So did you actually go to a center, or did you go? Oh, okay.
And it was
a month-long one. Or
it was so tough, and I'll get to that. You know, like some other things that, you know, I'll tell you about. But so no lie, I told Red Bull, okay, that's cool, I'm gonna do this. So the first day to check yourself in, as an alcoholic, to check yourself into an alcohol, like any center, it's so hard to walk through the doors. You always hear it straight out of a movie, but this is not a joke. I finally load up my bag, my OGO bag, and I'm going to go away for a few weeks, down to Salt Lake, and I'm checking myself in. I did it. I made it through the doors, and they're taking all of your blood pressures, and because you really are, you're sick, and they're doing. I'm sitting in this room as they check you into the hospital, and I'm looking out, and through this window I can see all these women that are just here in Salt Lake on crack. You name the drug, heroin. It was all. I'm not that bad. I'm not that person.
Yeah.
So it was really hard. So this is no joke. I'm sitting there. There was a fight or something that broke out. The nurse that was checking me in, and the lights go out in the whole hospital. No, and I'm just sitting. This is no joke. I'm sitting in this black room by myself with my bag, and I finally made it through the door. And I'm just sitting there. And it's been half hour. I'm sitting in the dark. The power's still off. There's a fight going on over here. There's addicts everywhere, and I'm just like, this is not me. This is not.
Yeah.
And I chickened out, walked out the door.
Oh, really?
And went on, another bender and did all this crazy shit. I'm letting my family down. I can't ride a bike anymore. And and I went right to a bar. And it was so hard to deal with. And I felt if I came back to this house, I would be, my wife would just be pissed and upset, And I realized then, I do now, it's something that you definitely have to do it for yourself. And I was doing it. When I checked in that day, I was doing it for my wife and my family and, but, Red Bull was still calling. They were making sure. And I still had obligations to Red Bull. I was still trying to do this, but they were going to let me take the time off, And so anyway, I think it was another month just full on benders and doing crazy, weird shit that I'm not proud of, I guess, and I finally was like, okay, I'm going to do this. But I want to find like the grimiest, down to earth, like check-in, recovery. And I remember going up to Ogden, this small town, kind of where Behringer lives and all that. And this little old lady checked me in, and she goes, just do it. Just like hit the jump. Just do it. Yeah. That's my goal.
Drop in.
I was like, fuck it. I'll do it. I'll give it a week. And I just realized like, man, it was so cool. And it was in outpatient, like half day in, out. There's full people that are in there all day long. Yeah. They're checked in. Usually those people, they have to stay there for, they wrecked a car, whatever.
Oh, yeah,
Okay. Crazy shit, but you start meeting people. And then in my mind, that first week went by and I look forward to it and like meeting these people and hearing their stories. And I was like, why don't we just have a normal AA meeting? Like, don't call it an AA meeting, but people should talk like this through their whole lives, and it was crazy. It got to the point I liked it. I liked meeting these people and hearing their stories. And there was doctors, lawyers, and you name it.
Functioning and
it was so cool because I met, he's a rodeo star. He rode rodeo. Met him in there and just crazy shit. So here I am at Red Bull, met all these cool people. Now I'm in AA, meeting all these different people, and I was slowly getting better and better. And it felt so good. It really did. But I also feel like I was embarrassed to tell the BMX world, like, I'm an alcoholic and I fucked up and I did, I feel like I let everyone down, but I look back and now I'm going, it's probably the boldest thing I've ever done in my life was checking in that day and that little lady that checked me in. And, but it was embarrassing and it was.
It makes sense that it's normal for that to be embarrassed of something like that. Like
it was, it's like you feel weak or you feel like, in BMX or any, like, I don't, it's handle your liquor, do it right. But I think, Nike sort of that, and he sent me a cool email, just a lot of cool people that it was just not expected, and it was so cool to have that support. But anyway, so I'm still working for Red Bull, and now I can go rogue. I don't give a shit. I mean, fire me. What are they going to do? I'm done. But I still had projects, one of them being, with Morgan and doing the full circle thing. And I think to that day, it's the biggest returns on clicks for the least amount of money spent. And I'm so proud of that.
Yeah.
And it's from
Yeah.
BMX.
Yeah.
You know, and we did that whole project for like 13 grand, which is like, that's nothing for Red Bull.
Yeah.
And it was cool to go out.
Your
with
bar
that.
tab was 13. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. And I think I lost the bet.
Yeah.
I think Ryan Runke got like 11 grand, 12 grand. He beat me. And I was like, okay, that's something, it shouldn't be rewarded.
Yeah.
And it was just the wrong way of thinking. And, you know, but that's, you know, and I'm just saying Red Bull's like that. There's a lot of companies like that. It's a social lubricant, right? That is, and it was fun. But when is it a problem? You know, you decide. And anyway, so I went out with a bang there. And then no lie, 6 months later, they closed down Red Bull in Dallas. And I feel bad, but at the same time, it was like, it wasn't healthy.
Yeah.
Not just the alcohol side or the drinking side. It was just a really tough situation too.
So then you ended up quitting, or you left when they closed down that office?
No. So I ended up, I told my salon, I'm not moving, you know, so they hadn't let me go.
Yeah.
But they were going to help me out, which I thought was cool. And it was kind of an insult, but they had my back. And I love that. That's why
That's the love and hate.
It's insane.
Yeah.
They really do care. Yeah. And there's not an athlete on this world that you get the best travel as a Red Bull athlete. An employee, you travel the best. You're always first class.
Like Terry Adams came to California to get his blood work done at
It's insane.
And stuff
you know,
like that. Yeah.
You know, you get a knockout. Like if Mikey would have been on Red Bull, they would have done whatever. Like they would have spent any amount of money to help fix him. You know, I don't care if you're a motocrosser, BMXer. Like they take care of their athletes, and that's why I love them. They saw that. You know, but it was cool to go out with a bang like that, and just it was amazing. You know, but at the same time, it was the worst time of my life and the best time, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's like you hit the reset button and you have to reinvent yourself again. And I was like, and I think people would probably say, like he gave up on drinking, whatever, like what a quitter, you know, but no one, that's how I think. But I don't think anyone, and my wife was like, man, Foss, everyone loved, like just if you feel like saying it, you know, and I did a podcast and I broke out and I just told everyone, came out of the closet, I'm not, and I'm not. It's something that I just want riders to be aware of that in any sport. It's just something that, you know, we all deal with, you know, and how you handle it. But
well, it's like at that point, it's like you're not even. It didn't happen because you were a rider. It didn't happen why. It happened because of life.
Exactly.
Like something that is like.
Good point.
Yeah, like, and that's important because it's like alcohol's not limited to BMX by any means. Like
it's so crazy.
Yeah.
And it's been great through my years of BMX. It never was a problem, other than a few rental car. But I wasn't drinking then, so. But anyway, I'm just saying it could be a problem.
Yeah.
But it definitely built up. But you're right; it could happen to anyone, any point in their life, and it just takes a hold of you. And I don't care if it's cocaine to heroin, whatever.
Yeah.
It's a habit.
So when Red Bull goes away, is that when the rental car place comes?
No, so. What happened is I'm in the middle of this reset my whole life. You know, I can't ride. I can't go to contests anymore. I don't really have anything left, you know, as far as being sponsored, you know, and all that. And I'm still trying to be healthy, you know, and I get a call from TJ and Nyquist. He's like, you know what? And they know how I was thinking, like, we should all go to Hawaii and do an Ironman or a half Iron, you know.
Yeah.
So it gave me a reason to get, you know, keep on a road bike, train. And at this time, he's killing it on a road bike. I'm like, what the hell? And I got into being fit, just absolutely insane. Where I think best way goes, you're emaciated, Fuzz. Like, but it was cool, and it just felt so cool to have this different aspect on life, you know, and training that kept me busy for 4 or 5 months, and fell in love with that. It was a good reset, and to hang out with Nyquist and TJ in Hawaii and have a blast, and
very cool,
you know, and we talked about, you know. And Nyquist was just, there's no way, he's not even close to being at the end of his career, anything like that. He's just killing it. And like I said, I'm so glad they had my back. And it
means a lot for those dudes. I mean, like you meet these guys and, you know, you have experiences with them and spots and dots around the country and the world and stuff like that. But you guys are friends for life. You know?
God,
like,
yeah.
And that's
I think in BMX you are no matter what. It's one of the coolest, sports as far as the people go. Yeah. So you have a family, and it's no lie. Like, it's so cool to be a part of that and just see. You know, I wish people could travel more to ride a bike and do more things, but it's so cool to see people every weekend. I miss that so much. Yeah. That's probably the biggest thing is like just seeing everyone. But then you're like, okay, when I did it, I was like, it was a lot of work, and like, do you want that? But now I'm running a company, and then it's starting to get bigger and bigger. And
before we move on too much, because after you got better, there was something about you doing Uber.
Yeah.
But not Uber necessarily to
make a living.
Yeah, it wasn't because you needed to.
There's nothing wrong with that. I want to get that out. Like, if you need to go Uber, just like for me, it's just I heard about it. I started doing it, and to keep me busy. Yeah. And in my mind, I was like, man, I could help get people back from the bar that are drunk. Yeah. That's how it started. Yeah. And I just fell in love with it. I fell in love with meeting people and doing all these, like. Now we have celebrities we drive. We just drove Woody Harrelson's for hell, big time actors. And it's so fun to meet these people. And I had to learn how to run SEO and do a website and work with Google Ads, and I had to learn all that by myself. With my wife, obviously, but I learned so much during. It's our 10-year anniversary this year, and the first 2 years, like I couldn't get enough of it. You know. And then,
so did the Uber kind of roll into this? This company?
Well, it pissed me off that Uber had so much control over a driver behind the app and all of the, just the algorithm of it and how it works. It wasn't fair, and I knew it. And if you're an Uber driver, you would know that. I'm not
small aside. My wife actually worked for Uber corporate.
Yeah. Yep.
And then, and it was during this time period, a very polarizing time period, like immediately after COVID, where they were passing legislation in California and stuff about health insurance and stuff like that. And so every time I would get in an Uber, I would ask them, because she had the corporate line, and she'd be like, no, this is why it's good. And I'd get in the car, and I'd just to be a little devil's advocate, I would just ask the Uber guy some questions. Then I would always report it back to my wife, and I'd be like,
I love that.
Nobody likes it.
Yes, not one driver.
A single driver. I was on 10 Ubers this week. Not a single one cared for it. So
it became miserable. I didn't need the money. I did it for the time to do something. I just fell in love
with it.
Proactive, I love picking up people in Uber. I just kept going and going and going, and like it became my new habit.
Sounds like almost like a little video game or something like that.
Kinda. Yeah. You're carrying 2 phones around. You want to get the Uber black cars as fast as you can, and then you start meeting other drivers, and it's just not fair. And I'm like, this industry is so messed up, and it's crazy. And it's such a great invention. Uber's like, man, I wish I would have got it. Yeah. But I'm thinking, why don't I just do this for myself? How would I do it? So I started watching more of the black cars going through the airport, which is a whole different lane than the Uber lane. And it's, your background check. There's a lot to it, a lot. And, but I started learning those gates too, how to get through. And I just watched, like what I did on a bike. You watch the better rider and you learn from them. So I started watching, I go to the airport and I'm like, how are these guys doing it? It's like a trick that I got to learn because I'm doing it. I know I'm hitting the jump. Yeah. And I start asking a lot of questions and doing it. And figuring out how to do a website for transportation, and how it works. But I knew they were making a lot of money. Yeah. And it's so competitive. And I love that. It's so fun to be competitive. And, it's kind of like being a BMX racer, not a lot of people know this, but a black car, you get to know a number on the back. I always run number 51 on every vehicle. Each car that we own or van, it has a special number. And that's one of my favorite parts is getting a number and putting it on the back. And it's labeled for from my daughter's birthday, 326 and 44, love the gear, whatever. And these numbers mean a lot, whatever. And so you're going up and down the mountain driving celebrities, and you're making good money, and you get to know your competitors and their number of their vehicle. That's how insane I got with it, and still am. Yeah. And it's so cool that here in Utah we can do it. I don't know what it'd be like anywhere else, and but it's an industry that's so competitive, but so much. It's what I love, you know. And it was so cool to learn how to run the website and take all the software and then update it. I'm like, how could we make it better? And like with Uber, I was like, you can't get better than Uber sometimes. Yeah, of course. But here in Utah, it's like it snows so much here, and it's up and down the mountains tough. Like Uber driver, I just feel bad for them when they have to do that.
For it and stuff,
yeah. But
how many cars and stuff do you own?
So right now we just got done with the ski season, so we just sold 2. So we have right now 6 total, and then we're going to buy another van.
Okay.
And my wife's addicted to it. She won't even look at a vehicle the same. Like, well, how many seats does it have? How much can we make? You know, on this, she's getting greedy.
She sees the dollar sign.
In a good way, you know. But
well, it's what a business owner should do.
Exactly. Yeah. And I have a great partner where she goes, yeah, we can. It's going to cost us money if we don't buy another vehicle.
Yeah.
You know, and that's when I knew that's a good thing. This is a great thing. You know, but it is seasonal, and I'm always saying, how could I get more runs, you know, doing events or moving more Hollywood actors or actors from, and getting that, you know, that 1% clientele and
get in there a little bit more.
But once again, you meet some great people from all over the world, you know, and it's a different experience than Uber, that's for sure. But we have some of the best drivers in the state, and it's a blast. I absolutely love it. But cool. One thing I wanted to say about it is, like, what I realize is, as you get a stranger in the back of your car, right? And one thing that always comes up in a conversation is BMX. Somehow, some way, and they don't care who I am or what. Yeah. My heritage from this sport, you know, which I love, they don't know. But you know, something will come up, like, I don't know how it comes up. It comes up, but all of our clientele, they rode BMX when they're young. Yeah. Now they're successful, you know, CEOs and this, that, but they can all go back to a Redline, a Haro, you know.
Yeah, they all had some connection with it at a point.
It's so funny because it relights like when they talk about that, I'm like, man, this is someone that probably saw me, you know, through my years of BMX. Yeah. And our other drivers, they're proud of me, and they said, our owner is Fuzzy Hall. Like, they're like, bullshit, you know. And to me, I'm like, they knew? How did they know that, you know? And so it's a cool conversation piece, you know. I mean, it's just so cool that so many people out there can relate to a bike, you know, and who can't. But BMX has that special, like, everyone remembers their first BMX bike, and it comes up in the conversation way more than it doesn't. That's for sure. I did the first loop. I want to talk about.
That's on here.
That was one of the coolest things I've ever done on a bike. Was a loop. It just felt like magic.
Cool. That was it right there.
Yeah, it's cool. You got this footage. Oh, see, I get chills watching it. It was the coolest thing.
So that is the same loop as the one that Rooftop got annihilated on, correct?
Yes. Okay. So Rooftop went out, I think, a week later after I did it.
Yeah.
And it was just, the story behind this loop was like, it was some Vietnam vet, his son skateboarded and wanted to just build a loop. And we were in San Diego at the time building jumps for the YMCA, I think, down there. Yeah. And just someone called me, Carl Harris from MTV.
Okay.
He says, this guy's got this loop, you got to go check it out. And so me, Gilly, and Elf got in the car and went to check it out, you know. And was it Dave Young? Is that right?
Yeah. Dave Young, San Diego.
Yeah. And he was, I don't know, he heard about it too, or somehow he showed up there too.
Yeah.
And I looked up to him as a rider, obviously. Yeah. And I didn't go out there thinking I was going to do it at all. I just wanted to check it out. And anyway, we get out there, and I'm like, next thing I know, I'm on the roll in trying it. Like, I couldn't help it. And I thought it'd be like a backflip, which was totally wrong.
Yeah.
Like, totally wrong. And it was more like going around a berm that just got moved up, you know? Yeah. And then once I got that in my head, I was like, I figured it out.
So how many tries?
Oh my God. It was a lot. I'd say at least 10.
Did you have the mattress thing and all
I'd
that
Gilly,
stuff?
you know, with his big ass long arms, like pulling the mattress out.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and they had to be quick to get the mattress out, you know, to you know, it was, but what I didn't realize is as you come out of the loop, your hand is like so close to the loop you just entered.
Yeah, to punch it. Right.
That I hit my hand really bad. That was gnarly. Some crazy wrecks on that. And Dave, he took it too. And
I forgot Dave tried it too, huh?
If he wouldn't have been there that day, I wouldn't have been able to do it. Kind of like me and Behringer. He did the first front flip.
Yeah.
And I was kind of mad I didn't do the first. I'm going to get the first loop like this. And there was a guy on a pit bike doing it in the UK or something like that. I was like, hell,
But you were the first one to do it that's the first one on a bike,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, exactly. And then, I shouldn't say that. There was a guy in the UK, but it was a 16-inch bike, and I don't think he pulled it. I saw a clip of it.
Yeah.
And this is before social media, you know, like a lot of it. But I was like, this is a perfect timing to do this loop, and just to do it. And I had no idea it'd be that fun to ride out of that, you know, and just because you come out twice as hot as you went in, you know, it's just like a Hot Wheels car. And but the best thing about this story is about
there's the photo, but I don't know if that's
Mongoose paid $5,000 for that photo to run that in Transworld. I mean, it was just some skateboard photographer.
Yeah.
That was just at the right, and it turned out so awesome.
It is
like,
sick.
He got $5,000 for that photo.
He must have known what he had.
Much. And to track him down to find it, I mean, he knew. I think he called. I don't know. We got a hold of him. But the best thing is, about a year later, I get a call from Matt Hoffman. This is the coolest thing ever. This is how cool Matt Hoffman is.
Yeah.
So he's doing, what is it? Jackass, with all those guys. And somehow they build a loop out. I forget where it's at,
and
right?
it does the jump into the water or whatever?
Yeah. So, but I get a call from, it's always cool when your phone lights up with Matt Hoffman's name.
Yeah.
It's just like, Matt. And Matt's so down to earth, and he's like, hey, it's like, how do you, I'm here with this, how do you do a loop? He called me for advice. I'm like, oh my God, now let's talk. Like, do not treat it like a backflip, do not do this. And he goes, okay, cool. And Matt was like so focused on it. And I couldn't wait to hear that Matt did it. And I think at the same time, Rooftop was trying it. No. That was, forget. The record.
He like ran out there. He's like, he heard that they were going to tear it down. And then so that's when he went out.
That's how dedicated Rooftop is to it. And was he by himself?
I think he had a friend or two, but I don't think he had anybody to hold mattresses or anything.
Oh, that's so gnarly.
So he just.
But Dave, he was so close. Without Dave Young, Street Rider, without him getting so close, I was so ready to give up. I was like, I can't get this thing. And my hand got hit. Just every time he just took a hit. And it was awesome. One of the coolest things I've done on a bike.
I've never done one. I feel like it's like I've seen one. I feel like I've been somewhere with one, and I'm like, fuck, I don't think so. I don't know.
It's cool. Some of the parks, like the quarter loops, or I think it's so amazing what some of these parks nowadays. But that was a cool feeling, that's for sure.
The only other thing that I feel like we have,
the better feeling is Matt Hoffman calling you for advice. It's just like, man, that felt good.
You mentioned Encinitas Park. This was the
YMCA.
The Rocket Power relay race.
This is how this story happened then.
Yeah.
And
so is this what you were there for?
Yeah, we built like a pump track for these kids. No, we built jumps at the YMCA.
Yeah, okay, all right.
It was so much fun.
They looked cool. I don't think I ever rode them.
And they tore them down like a year later. And it was
a little while, yeah.
But anyway, you could see it right off the freeway. It was that was a fun build, to build those jumps.
The berms were sick.
Oh, yeah.
The berms were awesome.
Over, just good dirt too, But that's so funny you got this footage.
Yeah, well, so it was a relay race.
Yeah, so we built all of that. Yeah, that's awesome. I've never seen this.
So it was meant to be like a live action representation of like the Rocket Power cartoon, which was like skate, BMX, and then they had like.
So they built the story on that.
Yeah,
that is so cool. I've never seen that footage.
But it's like you and TJ really look like you're actually going for it.
That's so crazy. I can't believe this. Like, I totally forgot about this.
Pretty
man. I might have dementia. How do I not remember that?
You just done a lot.
I really don't remember that. Oh, I hated those jerseys. I had to wear fluorescent colors again. I think.
Too funny.
That's cool to introduce dirt to them. That's cool they did that. I totally forgot about that. So,
speaking of social media, let's talk about what your thoughts are, and then we'll go from here.
For me, I fell in love with social media. Loved it. I couldn't believe you're connected with people, all the riders across. What a great way to broadcast yourself now.
Yeah.
And everything's changing. I just fell in love with it. And I think Instagram, when way before anyone knew about it, I was on that. And I loved it. And it became like something that it was starting to take over way more time than I should put into it. And I think a lot of people are still dealing with that.
Yeah.
But so anyway, what I wanted to say is social media was a big one with Mira,
Yeah.
And I had this great talk with Mira, about a month before all that shit went down, and
before you passed?
We were at the ride. We were at NORCA.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
It's one of the last events Mira went to.
Yeah.
And great time, and I was super proud of who I was, not drinking, and I had nothing against Dave, but I was like, man, Dave, it was a tough one. And anyway,
Wait, so are you saying that he was bad that night?
Let me reword this, So Dave's kind of going through the same thing I already went through, but here he is like doing these unbelievable numbers on a road bike, I mean, crazy. So I go, Dave, how you doing? And I was training my butt off, me and Nyquist going to Hawaii with TJ and training for an Ironman. And then here Dave is like, he's on the cover of a road bike magazine, and Dave's, that's a big name, right? And so anyway, he's at Nora Cup that night, and we had a great time, and it was just me, TJ, and Mira at TJ's house. And 2 in the morning, 3 in we get back from Nora Cup.
Yeah.
And TJ's tired. He goes to bed. It's just me and Mira, and I'm still. I was at TJ's house. Like I have a room there, and it's cool, but I do. But Dave was staying in that room because he beat me to it. Fine, all's fair. But I just remember sitting up that night, and Dave just broke out to me like, it was one of the coolest things ever. And like we're sitting on TJ's couch, and TJ and Roxanne are asleep, and Dave just I go, dude, how are you doing these numbers? And he broke into how he's doing it and what he's doing, and I was like, man, I don't know, Dave, that's pretty crazy, Can I talk about this or what?
Yeah.
I just don't want to. I don't want to diminish Dave or do anything wrong.
Well, let's hear it because I don't know exactly what you're gonna say.
So basically, Dave breaks down to me and he goes, "Man," and go back to the Mission Hill, the trails where I met Dave at 14.
Yeah.
But he went his way. I went my way in BMX. We're always friends. Don't get me wrong. And he just broke down that night and he said, "Man, you've always been such a great guy." But he said that it felt so cool. And we just started having this conversation. I was like, "Well, Dave, how are you doing these numbers?" And he's like, "A lot of painkillers, a lot of this drug, a lot."
Yeah.
And he was drinking way too much, especially that night at Nora Cup, and some of the last photos of all of us together, And so Dave just goes off on this thing. And I was worried about him, but not
on that
how
level.
I should have, could have, or done anything, And so I would think, when was Nora Cup that year before Dave?
September, and then I think he passed in March, so it was like 4 or 5 months.
It wasn't much. I remember that. And
Yeah.
I remember TJ calling me, he's like, "You're not going to believe this," I'm like, "What?" And I related back to that night, talking to him, going, I wish I could have said something, but he did. And Scott Wirtz told me that he, after that, he knew he had a problem, but he checked himself into recovery too. And get this, he was in there and fully in recovery. And he meets like a young kid or something like that. And Dave had such a big heart, And Dave was like, "This isn't for me." And gave like one of the kids in this thing like a few grand, or just always helpful, And he took off. He didn't give it the time it needed anyway, just it went on a bender, and all of that stuff. And just that night is just ungodly to me. And I'm just like, and once again, I'm like, that replays in my brain is like, it's Mira, and I could have helped him. And I did. I reached out, I texted, called him, and just a checkup,
Yeah.
And Nyquist did it for me. I'll do it for Dave. And it's just one of those moments where I'm so glad I got to spend the time with him that night. But what he was going through, I was like, man. And I told him, you got to get help. You have to do it.
Yeah.
But I think he had a lot of pressure, and he had everything going on, and he could make all this money in this new world too.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. I just miss him. There's just so much talent. And
I think he felt the pressure of wanting to fill that void that BMX
that rush.
left. Yeah. And so
it's a hard one, and he did it. That's what's crazy, but it wasn't healthy how he was doing it, and it was such a fun night. With Dave just talking.
I mean, I have the thing, like when I called him up, I hadn't talked to him for a long time, and the fact he answered the phone, he's like, "What's up, Ryan?" And I was like, "Fucking hell! Like, how do you have my phone number?"
So cool.
And he was super cool. And I remember he's like, "Oh, let me call TJ, see if he's gonna be around." He's like, "I'll probably just stay with TJ. I haven't seen him for a long time." And he was great, man. And I didn't pick up on any of him. I'm so busy at that event, anyways.
Oh
but
my gosh,
I didn't.
I commend you for that, by the way. I love Nora Cup.
Yeah, I wish.
I wish it wasn't so much work for you guys.
Yeah. Okay. But I didn't pick up on any of that.
You didn't?
Yeah, not that night. Weird.
But and I would never be one. We drink. That's what we were doing that night. But
that's a party. That's a night for drinking.
Yeah,
too.
Exactly.
So
that's a good way. But to get back to TJ's house that night and to have that talk with Dave, and then who would have thought 4 months later we'd lose him like that?
Yeah.
And it makes me wonder, like, did he have CTE stuff, like, and the more and more that comes around, it's proven now. You know, he wasn't thinking right, and when you're in that black space of time, that's a bad place to be. And it's just I felt bad for him, but I'm so glad that it's kind of a crazy story to meet him at 14, and then and a cool thing about Dave, at the Hall of Fame now they have his last bike, and I just thought that's so cool, the gold plated, and it's such a cool tribute to Dave and everything that he's done. And he made a lot of people money. It all trickled down from Dave. And his talent. And
just in the sense of elevating BMX.
Exactly.
Exactly. So, 100%.
Just like Hoffman has, like Dennis Anderson's doing now. Just that's how it should be, But I wish it's something that we could have fixed, and it's
I wish it would have, talk to your friends, that type of thing. So
and it's how that night went down, what's going on. It brought back what I was going through at Red Bull in a lot of ways, and how shit could get out of hand real quick. And I feel really bad for Wirch. I haven't talked to Wirch and all. I hope he doesn't feel guilty about it,
I don't. I mean, I think I know a little bit of what you're talking about, but
Oh, you don't know the whole story?
I mean,
we don't need to go. It's all good. I just wanted to say, like, it was just it was so cool to see Dave. He knew something was wrong. And he reached out, and I thought that was a weakness for him, and that's a big part of it. And but anyway.
All right. Well, let's run through a few of these, and then Medium Corporation BMX. I once read he was into lowered trucks and got stuck in the mountains in Utah. What was up with that?
No, that was my first 4x4 truck.
Oh.
And I didn't know, I couldn't believe you could get away with going up a mountain in the snow, and shit went bad. And I had the whole sheriff's search and rescue after me, and I had to hike down a mountain.
You got stuck.
It was nuts. That was so crazy. I learned a lot, with that one. No, and I wasn't drinking. I was normal. But that was a hell of a trip. But that's cool. They know
that's
that.
Deep one. I think this is Riley Smith or Riley.
Yeah. From Utah.
Who's the most famous person in your phone? And they said, then have him FaceTime that person.
Oh my God, that's good.
Yeah.
I would say, you mean outside of BMX? Like,
I think he's just saying the most famous.
You know what? I can't. I'd love to call Woody Harrelson. He goes through our bit. Like, I can't do that. Yeah. But let me think. Jeremy McGrath? That could be good.
That could be good.
Would I dare? Oh my God. Love it.
Who is it? I mean, if you have Woody Harrelson saved in your phone, then you...
No, it's in the business phone.
Oh, all right.
I don't...
There's a lot of questions that we basically touched on, so...
Okay.
All right, we can call it there.
No, hey, right, good interview. And thanks for calling me, man. Like, it's so cool that you come into Salt Lake. And so many times people come into your hometown, they don't call you or text you, and sometimes I get people are busy, but it's cool that you...
Well, it was good I hadn't seen or really heard much from you recently, and then I saw you at Salt Lake. Dude, appreciate you. Nothing.
Thanks,
I feel like I said it earlier, but like, if you don't like fuzzy, fuck you. Dude, I haven't heard anybody ever say a negative thing about you in any sense, cool. And your impact, I think, is like immeasurable. Just we didn't even touch on style and the way you did stuff, but like your impact on BMX is truly immeasurable, cool. and I appreciate you sitting down.
Thanks, man. Yeah. It's incredible. Like, it's such a big part of my life. Still is. I mean, I don't ride as much. I can't take risks as much.
Yeah.
That was another one. It's just so I miss taking those risks sometimes. But you can't afford to get hurt, whatever. But it's been a long haul. It's been amazing. I rode a great wave, met a lot of great people, traveled the world, great stories, and it's just this BMX has given me so much.
Yeah.
And I just don't ever feel like I want to see it keep going. You know, that's it.
Yeah.
As much as I'm not involved with it, I really am. I still keep a finger on it. And people text me when they come to Salt Lake. Yeah. And it's been, 10 years since I got a paycheck or, and people still care.
Yeah,
they
definitely do. So.
Yep. So.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Yep. And so no worries, man. And then, man, that's Man, that was a good haul. Like
Yeah.
that's nothing like Magoo and Moeller, but that's
the good one. It always there's a lot to talk about. That's the thing. Is like when it's like somebody like you, there is always so much to talk about.
it's crazy. I mean, there's so much.